It's being real. Yeah.
Real, unfiltered sports talk. Manufactured locally for the Carolinas.
Locked down.
This is the Rob Brown Show.
Get Rob.
Only on
The Fan Upstate.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome in. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. This is the Fan Upstate. Howdy, y'all. Welcome in. Great to have you live from Charlotte, North Carolina. It is officially ACC Media Days. ACC kickoff taking place right now as we speak. And I, of course, am ever so glad to have you along for the ride. Not just me, because about an hour and 49 minutes south of me, back at the Palatial Radio Ranch in the beautiful upstate of South Carolina, resides the Alpha and the Omega of the Fan Upstate. Ladies and gentlemen, the great one, Lonzo, is here as well. What a day we got lined up. How we doing, great one?
We're doing good. Pull your mic away from your mouth just a little.
Okay, perfect. I'm an amateur. I've never done this before.
I did want to do it live on the air, but
Listen, it's my first time being let out in public. You know.
Well, the cool thing is that you are live and on StreamYard, and you're going to be able to do some things that some other people probably are not going to be able to do with guests, and I cannot wait to see that happen.
Yeah, we got a lot coming your way over the next 3 hours and over the next 3 days, because we will be live here today. We will be live here tomorrow. We will be live here Thursday as well, and we have got full days for you today, including a couple of guests coming up towards the end of the day today at 11:28. We'll be joined by the head coach of the Ramblin' Wreck of Georgia Tech, Coach Brent Key, will join us on the show. And then an interview I'm actually very, very excited about, because I honestly did not know a lot about this young man. But in getting prepped for this event last night, I learned about the story of Sylvain Younjoun, who is a Belgian player, a defensive lineman from Georgia Tech, who is going to be joining us on the show as well. And this kid's story is a lot of fun. And not only that, an incredible personality. I was watching an interview of his last night during one of the breaks while I was filling in on BetMGM Tonight, and listening to him tell his story. And more importantly, he told me, well, he didn't tell me, he told you two, but he's going to tell us later on today when we have him live on the show to end the show this afternoon. He did tell me, or tell YouTube, I'll stop saying that now. He is going to tell us later that he's got a goal, an aspiration, a dream to be the first notable Belgian player in the National Football League. And I think it's an incredible story. So we are going to talk later on today to Sylvain. We'll hear his story. We'll also talk with Brent Key, the head coach at Georgia Tech. But that is not all. Also coming up after we go off the air. Now, we're working on scheduling, and obviously during the course of the ACC Media Days, as the majority of the State of the Union addresses to be handed out by head coaches will take place after this show goes off the air, we will have media availability after we go off the air. So this afternoon, we will be talking after we go off the air. At 1:08, we'll be talking to Marlo Wax from Syracuse. At 1:16, we'll be talking to the head coach of the Syracuse Orange, Dino Babers. Looking forward to that conversation greatly. And then at 2:24 this afternoon, we will be talking to Matt Lee from the University of Miami. As a matter of fact, just seconds before we went live on the air, Mario Cristobal, the head coach of the Hurricanes, walked right by and said hello. Now, we do not, as of now, have Mario Cristobal scheduled on the show. Let me tell you how this kind of works. So today, Syracuse, Miami, Louisville, and Georgia Tech are all in town. And we all submitted requests for different interviews earlier in the week. And every day we got asked to list the level of interest we had in different schools and different personalities within those schools. So I found Brent Key very interesting, as I did with Sylvain Younjoun. I thought those were a couple of interesting interviews. Obviously, anytime you can get Dino on the show, you want to do that. And again, I think this year very interesting, because I do think this is a make it or break it year for the Syracuse Orange under Dino Babers. So we'll talk to him later. I will tell you this. I am stunned by the number of stations out of the great state of Florida that are here today. There are 5 just in the immediate vicinity. And now, Lonzo, to answer the question that we are going to be asked more than any other question. We have been on the air for 4.5 minutes so far, and no sign of ACC Karen yet. Now, that's not to say she won't make her triumphant return to the program at some point today. What I will tell you is this. For the last 2 years, the Fan Upstate's table has been located way over there. Now, off in that direction. In fact, I'll even do this for you. Over in that direction. See, there's our wonderful mobile cam. Look at that. I didn't even think about that, Lonzo. I can just move it around. Yeah. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, we are on the stream right now at facebook.com/thefanupstate, twitter.com/thefanupstate, on YouTube by searching and subscribing to the Fan Upstate, or by going to Twitch and searching and subscribing to the Rob Brown Show. And when we have guests later on today, we will actually be throwing them up on the screen so you can listen to the interview on the radio, but you can also actually watch the interview live on the stream, which we would love for you to do. I do have a third camera, one on me, one on Lonzo, and of course our third cam, which I will be using as our mobile cam that I can pick up and move around. So way over there for those of you on the stream. That over there is where the ACC network does its television broadcast. You can tell by the glaringly bright lights. And for the past 2 years, our table has been right about there. All right. One of those first 2 tables in that area. I got here this morning. I rolled up to the hotel probably around 7 a.m. I brought all the stuff upstairs to come find the table. And I walked over there where we've been the last couple of years, and I could not find my table. And I'm like, this might be a bit problematic. So I started walking back towards the elevator to go down to where they do the registration. And when I did, I saw this beautiful The Fan Upstate sign. Of course, again, on the stream. Hey, look, there's our mobile cam right there. The beautiful sign right here, set up right by the escalator, which is literally right here. Now there's a cool little setup. You've got the Orange Bowl trophy. The National Championship trophy is over there. You can't see it behind the column, but the ACC Championship trophy is right there. So it's a nice little setup that we have. I'm not saying that I'm putting on the tinfoil cap and beginning the conspiracy that ACC Karen is out to get us, Lonzo. I am saying we are notably further away from the television set than we have been the last 3+ years running.
I think it's proof that they actually listened to the show, and they should, and they knew that confrontation was coming, and so they made sure that they tried to make it not happen. Now, the thing is, if it still happens, it is proof of how powerful the voice of Rob Brown is.
If I get, I don't want to say chastised again. If I get, how should we put it, alerted to the volume level that I tend to bring to a broadcast like this, I will let you know. But I feel like we are out of the danger zone of being confronted once again by ACC Karen.
See, you're worried about ACC Karen. I am curious about how many radio stations you're showing up on right now.
1, 2, 3, 4. At least I'm going to go 4, a tentative 4 as of right now.
Worldwide. Look at Rob Brown right now.
I'm going to go a tentative 4. Now, I'm also going to tell you that there's right in front of me, there's an empty table there. There's an empty table there that's not on the air. They're not on the air. There's down there. They're not on the air. So there's a bunch of tables around me that are not actively broadcasting. I suspect that when we get somewhere closer to around 11 a.m., that's going to change a little bit, and then we'll find out. Now, I will say this. I think there's a better understanding from radio station to radio station, right? Like if I look over and there's another host making enough noise that he's coming over my mic, I'm usually like, yeah, I get it. Like, me too, bro. Like,
I mean, come on.
Out, right?
That has never happened to you ever.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's never happened.
Sure.
Have you sized up the enemy just in case there's confrontation? Because that's what I do. But the big guy walks in the room. You find the other big guys and go, yeah, I don't want to mess with that guy. Yeah, I could take that guy. Yeah, I mean, it's just a normal thing. It may be overly macho, but I don't care.
No, I think so. And I think this is kind of becoming the norm in broadcasting. There's like three, and this is painting with a very broad brush, and I would say that it is not 100% accurate, but it's pretty widely accurate. There's really three, I think, genres of broadcasters, right? There is former athlete, and when I say athlete, I mean actual athlete. I mean NFL players, former college football players, like EJ Manuel down there sitting at the desk. Then there's former athletes like me, who were like, yeah, we were high school athletes, but we are well past our prime. But like, you look and you go, you know, if that guy tried, he could probably still get it. You know what I mean? Like if I cared at all about my physical well-being, health, and stature, I could probably still be reputable. And then there's the dudes that get picked last in dodgeball. Let's just put it that way, right? And you know what I'm talking about. And those are those.
What's that supposed to mean? How would I know?
You know good and well what I mean. Great one. And looking at the table, looking at the thing here, I would say there's probably two there's two guys in my vicinity that I'm like, that guy kicked my ass. Like that guy would kick my ass. And I just know that. I am aware of that. There's probably five guys. I'm going to say probably around five dudes in this little area that I'm like, you know, we're looking minus 115 on both sides of the fight here. Like we're both going minus 115 on the Vegas betting line. And then there's probably three that I'm like, I don't even need to stretch first. You know what I mean? Like, it's fine. I got that. Like y'all come say. All of that being said, so far the atmosphere in here is incredible. It's a phenomenal setup. And on top of that, we're going to find out, but based on who I know is around us, right? Like there's a fellow station from the area that is based in the area around me. Over to our left is Sports Talk Louisville. A buddy of mine, Mark Ennis, works there. He'll be in here later, I'm sure. War Chant, who is the Rivals podcast. I am getting the vibe. Based on looking around, so that the people who are put into our little island over here, we all have something in common. And I think it's one of those things that we kind of all know what we are and how this is going to go. We're all going to be on each other's shows over the next 3 hours and next 3 days.
We'll see about that. I've only heard one little incident while you were talking where I heard someone bleed over you talking. So I don't think we're going to have that problem because your power is
I got the power.
It can't be touched.
Boom, boom, boom. All right, we have got a busy day lined up for you today. Let me tell you what's going on here at ACC Media Days and kind of the approach that we're taking so far. Coming up here in about 17 minutes, the Commissioners Forum is set to begin. Obviously, the ACC Commish is going to take to the podium. Then at 12:30, Mario Cristobal, the head coach of the University of Miami, will give the Hurricane State of the Union. He has got with him Cam Kinchins, Matt Lee, and quarterback Tyler Van Dyke. I'm very interested to hear the story of Tyler Van Dyke because on one hand, Tyler Van Dyke did not have the year. Miami didn't have the year that Miami wanted to have last year, but Tyler Van Dyke did not have the year that they wanted out of the quarterback. But what was interesting is that the reports, the rumors were flying hot and heavy this offseason that Van Dyke was being pursued by the University of Alabama as, hey, man, if you want up out of Miami, we might just have a roster spot for you. So I'll be interested to hear what Tyler Van Dyke has to say. Then at 1 o'clock, Jeff Brougham is the head coach at Louisville from 1:30 to 2 o'clock. He'll be on the mic. He brought with him Ashton Gillette, Brian Hudson, and Jawar Jordan. Then at 2:30, Georgia Tech head coach Brent Key will take to the mic with Lamiles Brooks, Jordan Williams, and Sylvain Yonjoin, who I'm very excited about talking to. And then coming up at 4 o'clock, and this actually might be the thing that I am the most interested in today. Coming up at 4 o'clock, Alberto Riveron is the ACC supervisor of football officials, and he is going to be doing an officiating forum where they are going to go through, discuss, talk about the new rules, the way that they are telling officials to regulate these rules, what they think the rules will have in terms of an impact on the game, etc. So we'll bring you some sound from that later today as well. And then, as we mentioned, we will have coming up at the end of the show today at 11:28, the head coach of the Georgia Tech Ramblin' Wreck, Brett Key, will join us. And then Sylvain Yunjum will join us at 11:44 to wrap up the broadcast. We got all of that coming up for you. But on today's show, we are actually on the next 3 days worth of shows. We will be taking a look at all of the teams that are going to the podium that day. So we'll take a look at Syracuse, Miami, Louisville, and Georgia Tech, as well as the ACC as a whole. Got a chance yesterday evening to sit in on the BetQL nationally syndicated show BetMGM tonight, and had a really good conversation about the ACC with Ryan Horvath, who is the host of that show. And we'll bring some of the thoughts that we had on that show to light later on as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, 3 hours of sports talk radio excellence starts right now. We are live at the Westin Hotel in downtown Charlotte, North Carolina. I think that's about the best I can do, Zoe. I think it's the best I can do. I'm already catching some eyeballs. So, anyway, it's ACC Media Days. We will be here the next 3 days, the next 3 hours. Stick with us. We're going to have some fun. That's the great one, Lonzo. I am Rob Brown. You, ladies and gentlemen, are listening to The Rob Brown Show. You are listening to the Fan Upstate.
Cables.
Good to meet you, buddy. My pleasure, man. Thank you, brother. We're done. We're in fact, we got breakfast towards the end of the show. But yeah, we're gonna do some kind of routine for these day by day. So I will come by later on. At this point, hi Lonzo, how you doing, buddy? I'm glad to see you again. It's been a minute. Hey, look, there's Captain America Chris Evans down the hall as well. It's just the gang's all together, but 89 miles apart from each other. We are live at ACC Media Days in Charlotte, North Carolina. I do apologize for the weird camera angle now, too, because I have to use multiple computers because this one can't handle the internet by itself.
By the way, do not complain about that angle. I mean, whatever angle of Rob Brown you get, that's the angle, man. There you go.
Look at that hair flip, right? Just nail it today. I do have, okay. We got to talk about sports, and we're going to, but I have to tell you how my day started. I've already told Lonzo this story. Captain America Chris Evans down the hall has not heard this story yet that I'm aware of, but either way, I'm going to tell it anyway. So I got here about 7 o'clock this morning. I came in, as I told you guys, I went to find my table. I had to find it in a different spot than I usually do, yada, yada, yada. Well, about 8:15 or so, I got registered, I got set up, and I had to go to the restroom, which for those of you watching the stream is way, way, way over there. That might be problematic later. We'll see. So,
I can add things, and you're a long strider. You should be good.
I am a long strider. So I went when I got here, right after a hour and 49-minute drive door to door from the Casa de Love here to the hotel. When I got here, I set up and I went into the restroom to do the old business, right? So I walked in, and I will quiet this down because while I don't mind being heard on other stations, not exactly the impression that I want to make, but that's okay. It's a story I have to share with you, the people, despite the fact that I know my mother is listening right now.
But by the way, he's afraid that person's going to hear him and he's going to get crushed. That's what I knew it.
So I went over to the restroom to do my business. And as I walked into the restroom, there is on this floor, I held up the mobile cam a minute ago, but on this floor, you saw how big this room is. There's actually another bathroom that's like way back and around. That's the secret bathroom, and I wish I would have gone there instead. But down there's the primary bathroom where most everybody is going. And when I walked in there earlier, there was what I assumed was a wrestling match between a man and a bear taking place in one of the stalls. Based on the sounds that I heard emanating, it was a wrestling match between a man and a bear that was taking place in a shallow pond. So at this point, by the time that I recognized what was happening, Rob was already committed to doing the business, right? So I'm standing there doing the business as this proverbial wrestling match begins, and then a waft of scent punched me in the olfactory system, just pow right in the nasal cavities. The stench that I could only describe as if death died. That's how it was atrocious. So I finish up. I go over to the sink to wash my hands because despite the fact that I wanted nothing more on planet Earth than to get the hell out of that bathroom, I'm still going to wash my hands because I'm not a savage. I go to wash the hands, and out of the restroom comes a guy that I will solely identify now. I will not give teams nor names. Lonzo as a very sturdy offensive lineman. And let's just say that this offensive lineman, when he came out of the bathroom, out of the stall, very clearly had a look of relief upon his face, and I can imagine why based on the noises that were taken in there. Like, it sounded like he was blocking an All-American defensive end inside of the stall. He came out. He walks over to the sink where I'm washing my hands, and in my head, I'm like, man, you should probably see a medical professional. Out loud, I said, Lonzo, nothing at all. I washed my hands and I got the hell out of the bathroom. Suffice to say, it was a unique start to the day.
All right. One of the things I get disappointed in is bathroom judgment. And here's what it comes down to. That's what you're supposed to do in there. But at the same time, these guys they have to eat a lot of protein and things that may cause problems because to maintain that weight, to maintain that girth, to maintain that sturdy, it's not that easy to do. So they have to eat more than the quarterback does, or a cornerback, or the safety, or someone like that. Definitely more than the kicker. They might, well, anyway. So they have to do that. They're required by their coaches to maintain that weight. So I don't think you should be so critical, and learn to wash your hands faster.
For the record, I'm not being critical. It was kind of one of those things that as a dude,
if it were
dudes,
I was gonna say, if it were you, would you have been proud?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like as a dude who grew up around dudes, it's one of those ones that, like, I would have tried to trick my younger brother into going in the bathroom. I'd have been like, dude, go see what's in there. It's crazy, right? It was a moment for an offensive lineman to be proud of. How's that? Let me just say that. Here's what I'd like to do, Lonzo, if you don't mind. I know we're a little bit early. I want to run to a break, because we are about to have the ACC Commissioners Forum kick off, like, as we speak. I am going to run in just to listen to the opening comments, the first minute or two. I'll come back and let you know. Obviously, just want to hear what the kind of the tone of this event is. So we're going to run to a quick break a couple minutes early. When we come back, we will take this all the way till the end of the hour, and we'll start talking a little ACC football. We are live at ACC Media Days here in Charlotte, North Carolina at the Westin Hotel. We'll be here the next 3 days and the next 3 hours. Stick around. Don't go anywhere. Lonzo's back at the Radio Ranch. I am Rob Brown, and this is the Rob Brown Show. This is the Fan Upstate.
You're listening to live coverage from the ACC kickoff in Charlotte, powered by your local Ingles Market on the Fan Upstate.
I'm Chuck Sanders. Here's the Sports Flash on the Fan Upstate.
Greenville. 97.1 FM Spartanburg.
Always live on the Free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
Get in the game on the Rob Brown Show.
Only on the Fan.
The Fan.
Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. We are live at ACC Media Days here in Charlotte, North Carolina. So where we'll be for the next 3 days, all 3 hours, all 3 days. For those of you that are joining us on the stream, I know we're having some technical issues as far as keeping the video consistent, and I do apologize, but unfortunately, there's really not much that I can do about it, unfortunately. So we're working on it. That's the best that I can tell you at this point. But big day lined up here on the show. We do have today the commissioner of the Atlantic Coast Conference is currently giving his speech right now. James Phillips is at the mic. I just popped in there a minute ago to listen and listen. It's basically exactly what you think it would be. The ACC is as strong as ever. We've got divisions this year. Don't have divisions this year for the second time because the COVID year we went under this format as well. But listen, we talked about this a little bit last night. I filled in for Trista Crick on BetMGM tonight last night. I'll be doing the same again tonight from 7 to 11. I will apologize in advance to all of the people in the hotel rooms on both sides of me. But we got to talking to Ryan Horvath, who is one of the hosts of that show. I was co-hosting along with Ryan last night, and we had a discussion about the ACC, and I'm interested in this for two reasons. The first reason I'm interested in this is because I'm very interested to hear what Zoe has to say about it. The second reason is I'm interested, obviously, to hear what you guys have to say about it. And your phone calls are welcome at 844-326-3663, 844-326-3663. You can also text us on the carpros.com text line at 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N, and we will read those on the air as well. I really do think this conference is in a good place right now. Now, there are obviously some question marks about it. The television revenue deal is still a shadow looming large, and I suspect that at some point today, Jim Phillips is going to talk about that while he is on the mic in the ballroom right behind me. Getting the new media rights agreement is obviously not but I think the priority for the Atlantic Coast Conference. Like, we all had our fun, we all had our jokes a handful of days ago when it was announced that the ACC would be putting 50 combined athletic events between football games and basketball games onto the CW. And, fun. It's not Fox Sports. It's not CBS, sure. But I mentioned that I think it's a massive opportunity for the Atlantic Coast Conference. I genuinely think it is a massive opportunity for the ACC because any time that you can put your events on television, and I don't care what level it is, as long as it's not a subscriber-based or pay-to-play PPV, sorry, Lonzo, premium live event style situation, you've got the opportunity. But the opportunity doesn't matter if you don't take advantage of that. What I mean is this. If you throw up, let's say off the top of my head, Syracuse versus Wake Forest, and years gone by, that has been a game that I think the majority of us would look at and go, okay, right? I guess that's something to talk about. But there's an opportunity here. Dino Baber's going to be joining us later on the radio show, head coach at Syracuse. I absolutely think this is a prove-it year for Dino. Wake Forest does not have Sam Hartman this year. He has moved on to Notre Dame, obviously, and we'll talk a little bit how the Irish fit into all of this later on in the show as well. But Wake Forest is probably the best Wake Forest has been in many years. Had a very, by Wake Forest standards, very successful year last year, again, with Sam Hartman, who's not there anymore, but very successful and built some momentum to move into this year. The ACC can benefit if those games are good, if those programs are good. The ACC will benefit because, hey, if you're flipping channels and there's not much else on when those games are taking place and you get some competitive football there, you're in good shape. Ryan Horvath thought last night, he told me he thinks Pitt is a team that you should bet the win total over on. He said he thinks I think he said it was set at 6.5. He was taking the over. Said he was confident enough that he would have taken the over at 7.5. Now, I think I'm probably fine with him taking the 6.5. I don't know if I'd go all the way to 7.5. But the point is, if he's right and Pitt can be an 8-4 football program, is that going to shake the earth with the Georgias, the Alabamas, and the LSUs in the SEC? No, of course not. But it's a step up for the ACC. It's an opportunity to get more eyeballs. North Carolina behind Drake May. NC State behind a defense that has been giving the Clemsons and the Florida States fits the last couple of years. We talked about Mario Cristobal in Miami a little while ago. Miami's a team that I think probably has a roof of 10-2. I think a realistic 9-3 is possible. I think 8-4 is the most likely outcome for the Hurricanes. But again, the point is, if Miami can reach the heights that they're capable of reaching and not fall to the pressure like they did last year, you put Miami on the CW, there's some opportunity for growth there. So the good news is that even if it's only, I think it's like 13 or 14 games that are going to the CW, even if it's only 13 or 14 games, the ACC as a conference, and before any of you SEC folks start flipping out and hit me on the text line, the carpros.com text line at 71307, and, beating the rails that, well, y'all ain't the SEC. No, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination arguing that the Atlantic Coast Conference is going to be anywhere near the SEC overall top to bottom. I'm also not going to say that they're even ready to compete with Ohio State and Michigan. But I will tell you that I genuinely believe, and again, this is where I'm kind of interested to get Lonzo's take on the conversation and get yours as well, dear listener. I think the ACC could theoretically be as good as the Big Ten. I really do. Overall, top to bottom, Clemson and Florida State have to carry the banner again. No doubt about it. But I think they could get there. Let's take a break. We'll come back. Your thoughts are welcome. Can they get there? Well, let's start looking at some teams, some breakdowns. We'll do that when we come back. I'm Rob. He's the great one. You're listening to The Rob Brown Show. You're listening to the Fan Upstate.
The countdown to the college football season has begun. This is live coverage from the ACC kickoff in Uptown Charlotte, powered by your local Ingles Market on the Fan Upstate.
Don't give in
All right, guys,
to that
we'll be back in
constant
just a
joint
second. Don't
pain.
go anywhere.
Take back your quality of life and do
something that it kind of shocked me. It's like, boom, there it is.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's like Family Feud. It's like I didn't answer a question. How did I get it wrong already?
The X is dead. The bird is dead. Well, that's not entirely true because I am I'm also looking on my phone and the bird is still on the mobile app.
By the way, I heard a story earlier today saying that that will be the last thing to change.
The bird?
No, on the mobile on your phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, you can I also heard, and this one, look, I've kind of been making the jokes about calling it X, right? Like, okay, whatever. Lonzo, I read this morning, and again, it's an unsubstantiated internet rumor that the platform is going to stop calling them tweets and start calling them Zeets, Xeets. I want you to know you have my solemn vow. I will never call it a Zeet. I will never Zeet, dude. I will whatever. But I'm not calling it a Zeet. I don't know why this is the hill I'm choosing to die on, but I will not call it a Zeet.
As long as they use an X for it and not a Z, because I'm working on copywriting Z for me.
By the way, my favorite thing, X is already owned and trademarked by Zuckerberg.
Is it really?
Uh-huh.
Ooh, so maybe we're going to get some countersuits and this is just to build up to the fight. That's all this is.
I was going to say, forget all of that. The cage match goes this way. If Zuck wins, he keeps X and Musk owes him a bill. If Elon wins, Zuck has to turn over the rights to X. I accept these terms because here's the thing. Even if that is a work, even if that is a shtick to get me to buy that fight and tune in, I will do it if it's over the trademark to X. 100%.
Yeah, those are some major consequences, and it would not shock me if it's a work because it just makes sense. The fight thing has died down a little bit.
It has.
And then suddenly you get lawsuits, countersuits, and they're going to settle it in the ring, ladies and gentlemen.
I mean, it really has. I hate to say it, but if it's a work, if it's a gimmick, they got me, bro. They absolutely got me. All right. Let's pick up that conversation we were having before we ran to a break a second ago. This year's Atlantic Coast Conference, I truly, honestly, genuinely, and thoroughly believe has a massive opportunity. We know that, again, getting a new television rights deal is objective numero uno, right? It is. I bet if we got the chance to go in there and talk to Jim Phillips and ask him, hey, what's your thing, man? What's your goal? Like, what's your numero uno goal right now? The answer would be to lock down the best possible media rights deal, right? Because we've talked about college football expansion. I've told you that the next big domino to fall is for the Pac-12 to figure out their media rights agreement. And that's the next big one to go. They've got to do it without USC and UCLA. They've also got to do it now that the rumors about Colorado and potentially one or two other schools packing up shop and taking it to the Big 12. That's hanging over their head as well. So they're going to want to get that done sooner rather than later. And then next in line is the ACC. Now, the ACC obviously in a wildly different situation based on the fact that the ACC has a media rights agreement that's locked in until the mid-2030s. That, if you're paying attention, is a very long time from now. The next time the ACC's media rights agreement comes up for negotiation, Lonzo, I will be 50 years old plus. Okay? I am noticeably not 50 years old yet. So, with all of that being said, I think if you look from the top of the ACC to the bottom, I think Florida State is going to be good. In fact, I said last night, fight me, bro. I think right now today, I understand the concept of maybe better than anybody else. To be the man, you got to beat the man. And I don't disagree with that sentiment. Woo. All right.
All right. Here's the thing that needs to happen. If the ACC wants to compete with the Big Ten, you said the Big Ten,
Yep.
Specifically, is you need more teams to get better. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. It needs to be a more competitive conference. Now, you can look at the Big Ten and go, well, it's only Ohio State and Michigan. That's not true. Penn State's been in there. Wisconsin's had years. Even Northwestern has had some years. But in the ACC, it's just been Clemson for the last, 5 or 6 years. You've got to get someone in there, some other teams where you go, we don't know who's going to win this. And that makes more excitement about the conference overall, and especially the teams in the conference. And that's how you gain on another conference. I don't know how they do that. I mean, is it recruiting? Is it coaching? It's a combination of all those things. And Florida State might be coming on this year. That's the best thing that could happen for the ACC, is for a couple of teams to suddenly be right there in the mix with Clemson.
So for the record, spot on. I could not agree with that more. So let's take a look at it, right? Here's what we're working with in the ACC. I think the best team in the conference, without question, is Clemson, or at least it has been. I think Florida State is very much nipping at their heels. We're going to talk a lot of FSU tomorrow. Tomorrow's FSU's day. Clemson's will be on Thursday. Clemson is the standard bearer for the Atlantic Coast Conference. Nobody's shocked by that. I think Florida State is very much nipping on their heels. Now, the question is, who's next? Who's next in that line? And there's a list of teams I think are jumping up there. I think North Carolina with Butch at the helm, has a genuine opportunity, Mac Brown has a genuine opportunity this year to establish themselves as a football brand. Do I ever think they're going to be as big of a football school as they are a basketball school? No, of course not. They are the blue blood of college basketball. But I think they've got a chance to establish that, hey, when we get talent, we can be good here. I think Pitt is going to end up being a better team this year. I think Pitt very much could be an 8-4 team this year. I'm thinking 7-5, but I think they could be 8-4. I think the University of Miami, this is a major year for the Miami Hurricanes under Mario Cristobal. If Miami last year, Miami was expected to perform. Last year, Miami was supposed to have been a 10-2 football team. They weren't. And that team, as far as I'm concerned, gave up with about 4 teams left to play. And that's part of the reason that I have massive questions about Mario Cristobal, because at the end of the day, so if your team loses, your team loses. Welcome to football. It happens to everybody. But if your team quits, if your team stops playing, if they stop pushing, that says something deeper about the ingrained and established culture or lack thereof in your program. So I think if Miami wants to maintain their status as a traditional powerhouse, they've got to do it this year with Tyler Van Dyke at the helm. And I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say that they will. Wake Forest lost Sam Hartman. That's a big blow. I really wish he would have stuck around one more year, because I think Wake is on the verge of being the best that program has ever been. NC State defensively, I think this year, has the potential to be one of the better defensive teams in football this year. There are, in my opinion, as many good teams in the ACC as there are across the Big Ten. Who? Match Ohio State and Michigan with Florida State and Clemson. I think Ohio State and Michigan right now are better than Clemson and Florida State, but check with me back again in December. You're right. Penn State has been in the mix a couple of times. They haven't gotten anything done because of it, but they've been right there. But outside of that, who am I threatened by? Wisconsin, who just lost their starting quarterback. Nebraska, who just hired Matt Rule. Maybe, again, if Matt Rule is the college coach we think he is, Nebraska might take a jump, but they haven't yet. Purdue, Wisconsin, Sparty, Rutgers, Minnesota, Iowa. This team, that list does not impress me any. I'm not saying it's leaps and bounds above, but it doesn't impress me any more than the Atlantic Coast roster does at this point, which means the ACC has a chance to jump up level with the Big Ten this year if their teams perform. The pressure's on to do it. We'll talk more about that later on in the show, but we got to run to the top of the hour break. When we come back, We'll take a look at some of the teams individually that are having their media days today. Georgia Tech, Louisville, Syracuse, and Miami. That's all coming up on the Rob Brown Show. This is the Fan Upstate.
You're listening to live coverage from the ACC kickoff in Charlotte, powered by your local Ingles Market on the Fan Upstate.
Oh, I got to start hammering Ingles. All right, let's see. Can we please make maintain that girth a sounder? I approve.
Yeah, I didn't write it down, so you know.
O Z Z Z Z Z Z. Now O Z Z.
All right, we got about a minute.
Oh, quick turnaround. I like it.
WYRD Greenville.
WORD Spartanburg.
WFBC HD3 Greenville. The official sports voice of you, the Upstate Fan.
CBS Sports Radio.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Man, check this out.
Your unofficial Rob Brown Lockdown.
Represents being real. Yeah.
Real, unfiltered sports talk. Manufactured locally for the Carolinas.
Lockdown.
This is the Rob Brown Show.
Get robbed.
Only on
The Fan Upstate.
Our numero dos of the Rob Brown Show goes now, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Fan Upstate. Welcome back in, y'all. Great to have you live from the Westin Hotel in downtown Queen City, USA. It is Charlotte, North Carolina, where we'll be broadcasting for the next 2 hours. We'll be broadcasting for the next 3 days as we roll through ACC Media Days here on the Fan Upstate, back in the palatial Fan Upstate Studios resides the Alpha and the Omega of the Fan Upstate, the Sultan of Swag, the Professor of Perfection, the Wizard of Wave, hashtag Dad Kicks, Colonel Grudge, the great one himself, Alonzo, is here as well.
You made it through the first hour without anybody coming up to you so far.
So far, so good.
As far as that's 1 hour down.
I will say this. The majority of folks here are in that conference. For those of you not watching on the stream, first off, what are you doing with your life? Get up in here. Go to the Fan Upstate on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube, or the Rob Brown Show on Twitch. This door right behind me, right over here on the stream, on the other side of that door is the ballroom where the major events take place, right? That is where Jim Phillips is giving his ACC State of the Union. That is where throughout the day today, Dino Bayersmeyer, Cristobal, Jeff Brom, and Brent Key will be giving their state of the program about Syracuse, Miami, Louisville, and Georgia Tech, respectively, over the next handful of hours. That's where everybody is right now. In fact, I'll bring back up our handy cam here. We have got a third camera here, and later on, we're going to be using this camera for our guest. But this is our third cam. This is the extent. So right over there, that's where the ACC network is set up, doing all their TV stuff. The rest of Radio Row is over there. Usually, the last couple of years, our table has been right about there. And then this year, shockingly enough, Our table is over here right next to the escalator out of the way. I can't imagine why, but right over there, that's the ballroom where all of the keynotes will be taking place throughout the day. Jim Phillips is in there right now having a discussion about the future of the conference. In fact, I think he's just wrapping up. And we were talking a little bit about the event itself. The majority of folks are in there right now. In fact, the assembled media is about to gather right here over my left shoulder because it looks like Jim's going to come out and answer some questions here in just a minute from right now. But I popped in during the last couple of breaks just to hear. Like I said, it's no surprise, it's no shock here that you're at Media Days. The message is overwhelming positivity. And of course it is. Like I mentioned, I genuinely believe there are good reasons to be optimistic. There are reasons to be looking up if you are the Atlantic Coast Conference right now. Everybody's talked about Clemson last year and how disappointing the finish to the season was for the Tigers. Y'all, they were a point away from playing in the playoffs. A point away. Now, granted, I know the sting is escalated exponentially based on who that 1 point was against, that they fell up short. But the reality is, you fell to a rival in a rivalry game on rivalry week. You lost by a single point, and that 1 point was the difference between Clemson getting into those playoffs and not doing that. If you're the ACC, you got to be excited about that. 1 point away from having an ACC representative last year. And the majority of us think Clemson's going to be just as good, if not better, this year. We'll come to Clemson later on. You got Florida State, who we've kept an eye on. Florida State has drastically improved under Mike Norvell, as somebody who has covered the Seminoles for a very, very long time, considering the first 13 of my 16 years in broadcasting were done less than 2 hours away from Tallahassee. This is the best FSU has looked. And again, it's spring. Let's all relax. Well, it's summer now, but you get it. The best Florida State has looked since, I would even include the second to last year of Jimbo Fisher. Right? Jimbo Fisher's last year, in my opinion, didn't look as good as the Noles look right now. That team's gotten better. There are many of us who believe that North Carolina is very close to turning a corner. There are a bunch of us that believe that if the Demon Deacons of Wake Forest can somehow hit on a quarterback this year that can get something done, if Mitch Griffiths is the guy, Wake Forest could be taking a step forward this year. NC State, defensively, I think is going to be a very good program. Mario Cristobal at Miami. Again, I'm not buying in to the Hurricanes. The Miami Hurricanes, Lonzo, are the Dallas Cowboys of college football. Every year, we hear about how they're back. Every year, their fans try to convince you that they are the greatest thing to happen to football since the, since the forward pass.
It's so funny. You talked about Miami, and Ubisoft just put up a new logo, which is funny. It's a U. Right as you said, Miami, the U.
Miami would like to be the U. Right now, they're just
at what point do you? Yeah, at what point do you take that away? You're no longer the U. How many years has that been?
There is nary a more entitled fan base in college football. I'm not going to say sports, but there's not a more entitled fan base in college football than the University of Miami. Genuinely, I believe that. And there are some entitled fan bases. Lonzo, respectfully, you belong to one. I think Clemson is an entitled fan base.
Oh, okay. We're talking college. I thought you were about to disrespect some certain team, and you don't want to do that.
I wouldn't dare. I like parity in football. Nobody disrespect the Chiefs. Let's give everybody else a chance, shall we? Miami's an entitled fan base, but I'm going to say this. I said it once back in the last hour. I'll say it one more time. Make it a break of the year for the Canes. Make it a break of the year for Mario Cristobal. And what has Mario Cristobal done his entire career so far? He's built impressively strong offensive lines everywhere that he has gone. What was the one weakness that kept Miami last year from getting anything done. Their offensive line was, I'm sorry to say, bad. It was bad. It was real, real bad. Last year, Tyler Van Dyke was thought to preseason be potentially all ACC caliber, maybe all American. He wasn't that. And he wasn't that partially because of the fact that he got injured and was running for his life. Partially because the offensive line was bad. The offensive line could not establish a run game of any type. If I recall correctly, the University of Miami rushed for like less than 3.7 yards per carry last year. That's not good, right? It's not good. But if Mario Cristobal has indeed turned the corner with the Hurricanes of Miami, the ACC's got to be happy about that at this point. I do not think that Virginia Tech is going to stay down forever. I do not. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and try to convince you that Georgia Tech is about to become a world beater. I am going to say I really like Brent Key, who is a Georgia Tech guy. He is from Georgia Tech. He played at Georgia Tech. He is an old school, blue-collar, offensive line coach turned head coach, right? He has gotten rid of the Paul Johnson way at Georgia Tech. He has gotten rid of the way that they tried to play football under their last head coach, and he has established a much more modernized version of a pro-style run-first offense. I think they could be dicey this year. They did lose a lot of defensive prowess. In fact, I think 3 of their 4 starting defensive backs from last year are all at Ole Miss this year. By the way, yesterday, we kind of circled back around to the comments of Lane Kiffin at SEC Media Day, Lonzo. Is it hilarious to me and me alone that Lane Kiffin was lamenting the transfer portal when 75% of Lane Kiffin's starting defensive backs are going to be transfer portal players this year? Is it just me, or is that freaking hilarious?
It's just you.
Oh, okay.
I mean, cut Lane some slack. We all saw what was going on with his hair and stuff. I mean, you can't.
Lane had a long night on Broadway, didn't he?
He did, or too much sun or something. Yeah. I don't know what it was, but yeah, cut him just a little bit of slack.
Yeah, Lane had a long night on Broadway over there in Nash Vegas, baby. Look, I think the ACC has reasons to be positive. Now, again, they still got to perform, right? They've still got to perform. Florida State went 5-3 in conference last year. If FSU goes 5-3 in conference this year, the ACC is going to try to convince you it's because of parity in the conference. It'll be disappointing. Louisville was 4-4. NC State was 4-4. Syracuse was 4-4. Wake was 3-5. And Boston College was 2-6. Now, Phil Jerkovich comes back for Boston College. I don't know how much of a difference that makes. I don't think we're going to see them shooting up the leaderboard, but I think Boston College is going to be slightly better. I'm not putting them in the realm of competitive. I'm not putting them in the realm of that's something to write home to your mama about. They ain't going to be good. They're going to be a little bit better. Over from last year's Coastal Division. Remember, no divisions in the ACC this year. North Carolina was 6-2. I think 6-2 is probably the least they'll accept this year. Duke was 5-3. Duke was 5-3 in conference last year. They were 9-4 overall. I think this Duke team is going to be the best the Blue Devils have been since, I don't know, Steve Spurrier was there in 1952 or whatever it was. Pitt was 5-3. They were 9-4 overall. I think 8-4 is the minimum for Pitt this year. Georgia Tech last year, 4-4 in conference, 5-7 overall. I think they have a threat to be a 500 ball club this year. They got a couple of decent young wide receivers, including one out of the portal. They have moved on from Jeff Sims, who I'm sorry to say is going to go down as a failure. I remember when Florida State was trying desperately to get Sims to come to Tallahassee. He ended up picking Georgia Tech. The Florida State fans were like, woe is me. I lament the day that a quarterback, a highly touted quarterback, picked Georgia Tech. Well, he went to Georgia Tech, and it turned out that might have been okay because he wasn't that good. But I'm also going to point out that Georgia Tech In last year's recruiting class, you know how many offensive linemen they signed? Zero. None. Now, that was the roster class that came in while they were making the transition to Brent Key, their current head coach. Again, an offensive line coach. Their offensive line recruiting this year has skyrocketed in terms of quality. I mean, it didn't have to go up but one to skyrocket in terms of quantity, but the quality is there too. And again, Miami, 3-5, 5-7 last year. Nobody, I'm going to go ahead and call the shot now. Nobody in this hotel thinks that Miami is going 3-5 this year. They're just not. I don't know what the hell happened to Virginia and Virginia Tech. State of Virginia not looking great right now. We'll come back to them later on. All I'm going to say is that I think there is a massive opportunity here. I think there's a massive opportunity for the ACC, but it is only going to work if teams produce. There cannot be more than one disappointing team in this conference this year, or it's going to be a problem. Because once again, if the ACC is going to bump themselves up, if the ACC is going to take a step up and try to close the gap with the Big Ten, try to close the gap with the Pac-12. Actually, I don't think they have to close the gap. I think they have to extend the gap over the Pac-12. This is the year to do that. It's not a question. It's a statement. Let's take a break. When we come back here in just a minute, we do have some news. We are going to slip from the world of college football up to the NFL because we did get some breaking news earlier this morning. We spent some time yesterday talking about running backs in the NFL and that Zoom call that they had over the weekend. One of them just got paid. We'll tell you who it was, the contract they're looking like, and tell you if this is the norm or the exception based on who the running back is. That's coming up next. My name is Rob Brown. The great one Lonzo's at the controls. You're listening to The Rob Brown Show live from Charlotte, North Carolina. ACC Media Days, day number 1 right here on the Fan Upstate.
The countdown to the college football season has begun. This is live coverage from the ACC kickoff in Uptown Charlotte, powered by your local Ingles Market on the Fan Upstate.
From the News Talk 98.9 WORD Weather Center, here's the Carolinas' most trusted forecast on the Fan Upstate. Sunny skies today, high of 92. Tonight, mostly clear, low near 70. Wednesday, sunshine, high of 94. And Thursday, sunny, high around 95. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Vujicic.
I got too many computers. All right, stream. How we doing? I know this is a little different than we're used to, but we're getting there, big dogs.
I don't know how you put up with me. That's I don't know how you put up with me.
Oh. I gotta get skinny so I can wear suits again, y'all. I feel left out. There's three outfits. There's suit guy, sans tie. There's jeans and polo guy, jeans and golf shirt guy. That's me. And then there's just full athletic wear guy, like joggers and a hoodie.
30 seconds.
Too many screens, too many pooters.
Mark Ryan from Carolina Panthers training camp this Saturday morning from 9 to 11 and powered by Americans for Prosperity.
More than the scores. Real sports talk for real sports fans.
The Rob Brown Show, now 9 to noon. The Fan. Upstate.
Hurricane Jeff texted the show. He said, first of all, we still do and are referred to as the U. Second of all, I had elevated expectations for last year's team and was greatly disappointed with the results. I go into this year with cautious optimism. Barring injury, I think they will do well. And Rob, you were right. They did give up on last year. Yeah, Miami definitely gave up on last year. And I again, it's kind of one of those things that, like, if you don't like people saying it, don't do it, right? But they did. It is what it is. That's what happened. And I genuinely hope they don't do it again. Look, I don't think I've made it a secret. Even to my guy, Jeff, love you, big dog. Thanks for being awesome and a VIP and a P1 and all that good stuff. But I don't like Miami. I never have and never will. I think they got the most entitled fan base this side of the Dallas Cowboys with nothing to show for it in the last, 2 decades? Since, 01 with Willis McGahee?
I did used to work with a Miami fan, and I can confirm all the things that you're saying about them.
Yeah.
The fan base.
And listen, we know you're talking about. I love Zach. That's good people. Zach's good people. I'm a fan. But, man.
I wasn't talking about him.
Oh.
But yeah. It's somebody else.
There was more than one?
Yeah. I forgot about him. No, I'm talking about someone who I worked with closely. Sales is downstairs, and Zach, he's all right.
All right. So I think that, again, this is a team that has everything to gain, more importantly, everything to prove this year. And we'll talk about the Miami Hurricanes later on. I will also tell you that coming up this afternoon, we will actually be having on the show this evening. We'll have live, as I mentioned a couple of times later on in the broadcast, Brent Key. He is the head coach of the Ramblin' Wreck of Georgia Tech. He will be joining us live on the radio broadcast coming up. We got Brent Key at 11:28. We got Sylvain Yonjouen, who is a Georgia Tech defensive end from Belgium, and really interesting story. We'll be talking to him at 11:44. That'll be the last segment of the show. And then after the show today, Marlo Wax of Syracuse, the head coach of the Orange Dino Babers, and Matt Lee will be joining us later on this afternoon as well. Now, Marlo, Dino, and Matt will all be recorded after we go off of the air. So we will have those interviews for you on tomorrow's show. Then tomorrow from 11:20 until 11:28, we'll be joined by Kalen DeLoach, an all-ACC linebacker from Florida State University. We'll talk FSU ball with him. From 104 to 112, we will have Tony Muskett, 112 to 120, Chico Bennett, both from Virginia, then Jacob Monk and MJ Devonshire from Pitt will join us. Duke and Pitt, respectively, and then Josh Fuga from Virginia Tech. Then on day 3, we will have live during the show Emmett Moorhead from Boston College from 11:36 to 11:44. After we go off the air, very busy for the rest of that afternoon. From 2 until 2:08, right after the end of the show, we'll be joined by Dabo Sweeney, Cade Klubnik, and Will Putnam, all from Clemson. Obviously, we'll be off the air at that point, so those interviews we will run for you on Friday's show. Then we'll have John Copenhaver from North Carolina and Chase Jones from Wake Forest to wrap up Thursday. Again, all of those interviews will be played on Friday's edition of the Rob Brown Show. All right, let's get to some NFL for just a minute and very quickly, because we found out this AM that Zoom meeting apparently worked. Saquon Barkley has agreed to a 1-year contract worth up to $11 million for a single year, according to NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport. The deal also includes a $2 million signing bonus. Now, we know that the Giants placed the franchise tag on Barkley. That franchise tag this year for running backs was valued at $10.091 million for the season. The teams had until July 17th to come to terms on a long-term deal. When the deadline passed, sides could negotiate terms of a 1-year pact, but not a multi-year deal. And that is what they ended up reaching. NFL Network insider Mike Garofalo added that no provision in the contract prevents the Giants from franchise tagging Barkley again next year. A second tag in 2024 would be worth a 120% increase from whatever he makes this year, so it would go up to around $12 million plus per year if he is tagged a second time. So this is interesting, Lonzo, because we talked a little bit on yesterday's show about the Zoom meeting that Saquon Barkley had along with Josh Jacobs of the Raiders, Christian McCaffrey of the 49ers, Austin Eckler from the Chargers. They all got together on a Zoom call and had a conversation about the valuation of running backs around the National Football League. And I kind of fell, opinion-wise, right in between both sides of the argument. Because on one hand, we know how valuable running backs are in the National Football League. If you go back and you look at the last handful of Super Bowl champions, all of them had a very, very impressive running back. And we will even point out, Lonzo made a great point of bringing up Isaiah Pacheco from the Chiefs last year. This is a late round draft pick. This is a guy in Isaiah Pacheco that, let's be honest, very few of us had any discussions about, at least in terms of the National Football League, until about week 10, week 11, when all of a sudden we went, oh, who's this cat wearing red and white? He's kind of a baller. The Eagles last year lost the Super Bowl, did it on the legs of Miles Sanders. Now a Carolina Panther. We know the running back position is wildly impactful. We are also aware of the fact that running back shelf lives are short. If you make it to 30 as an NFL running back, you had a stellar year. You had a stellar career, frankly, to be honest with you. You had a real good run. Most guys are wearing out at 26, 27 years of age. So the thing here is running backs are trying to get the bag. Lonzo, Saquon Barkley is 26 years old. Now, he won't turn 27 until the season is over. But at 26 years old, Saquon's got, if it goes his way, if he has the best possible career, and with his running style, obviously, he's got maybe 4 more seasons left, right? Oh.
Yeah, according to TMZ Sports, LeBron James' son Bronny suffered a cardiac arrest during a workout at USC.
Oh, no. Don't love that. That's not good at all. Let's see if we can get some details on that. I did find the TMZ article. They report that LeBron James' son, Bronny, was rushed to a hospital after suffering cardiac arrest during a basketball workout, according to TMZ Sports. A James family spokesperson told TMZ Sports, quote, yesterday while practicing, Bronny James suffered cardiac arrest. Medical staff was able to treat Bronny and take him to the hospital. He is now in stable condition and no longer in ICU. We ask for respect and privacy for the James family and will update media when there is more information. LeBron and Savannah wish to publicly send their deepest thanks and appreciation to the USC medical and athletic staff for their incredible work and dedication to the safety of their athletes. According to TMZ, they say sources with direct knowledge tell them that a 911 call was made at 9:26 a.m. yesterday from USC's Galen Center, where the team plays and practices, and the 18-year-old was taken by ambulance to the hospital. Sources say it was code 3, meaning the ambulance lights and sirens signifies the seriousness of the emergency, and it appears that that is all of the details that we have right this very second. That's first off horrifying. I hope Bronny is fine. I mean, I think regardless of how you feel about his dad as either a basketball player or a person, at the end of the day, the last thing we want is for any long-term or serious health ramifications to a kid, to a college hooper like Bronny. And considering, listen, LeBron has made it abundantly clear that regardless of what direction his career goes in, the end goal is to play a year with Bronny in the league. The end goal is to play a season with Bronny on a team in the association. And you know, the events like this are, I don't know, man. That's just it's horrifying, because these are the types of things that can turn dramatically worse very quickly. So we'll keep Bronny in our thoughts. It kind of harkens back to, I'm kind of having the same reaction, Lonzo. Do you remember the Florida player Keontae Johnson when they were lining up to play that game against Florida State? When Johnson just passed, like he just fell, right? I can't remember if it was in game or warm-ups, but like he just collapsed and they had to stretcher him off the floor. It was like a horrifying moment. That was way back in, 2020? I want to say it was the first year I was here that happened. Absolutely terrifying moment, and we didn't know if Keontae Johnson was ever going to play ball again. Now, that being said, he is currently playing for Kansas State, and apparently everything's going fine. So we really hope the same for Bronny James, but that's terrifying, man.
Yeah, so far it's only been TMZ, but there was a time when TMZ, you would just laugh at it, but they're pretty good at investigative reporting.
I got to give...
Probably the source in a lot of ways for things like this.
Yeah, I got to give. Listen, I cannot stand TMZ, and the reason TMZ takes a bunch of crap, obviously, TMZ takes a bunch of crap because they're bulldogs. They're vicious. They don't care about feelings and emotion. They only care about getting the story. But when something like this happens, they get the details. So it is what it is. All right, let's do this. Let's take a break. When we come back here in just a minute, we are going to talk as we get set for Brent Key, the head coach of the Ramblin' Wreck of Georgia Tech, to join us coming up at about 11:40. We are going to talk with Ben London from 24/7 Sports. He covers the Georgia Tech Ramblin' Wreck, a team that I am shockingly optimistic about this year, and it's been a long time since we said that. We'll be joined by Benjamin London when we come back. Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo, and you. The Rob Brown Show rolls on. This is the Fan Upstate.
You're listening to live coverage from the ACC kickoff in Charlotte, powered by your local Ingles Market on the Fan Upstate.
I'm Chuck Sanders.
All right, buddy,
Here's
can you
the
hear me?
Sports Flash on the
I
Fan
can't hear
Upstate.
you, but
All right, how about now?
Brings every day
There
off
we
on
go.
Monday.
Turns out when you turn it on, it works better. Who knew? How you doing, bud?
Good. How are y'all?
So you've worked with Holcomb before, or your buds with Holcomb?
We went to North Greenville together.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
That's awesome.
very familiar with the Greenville area.
I love it, dude. So where are you now? You in Atlanta?
I'm in Hartwell.
Hartwell.
Yep.
I like
And
Hartwell, Georgia. That's a good spot.
yeah, it's right across the state line. So I get welcomed into South Carolina by bumpy roads every time. So.
Checks out. Checks out, man. Yeah, what an event. I know it's going to keep picking up, but good start.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you, before we go on the air, how you feel about Coach Key? You on board?
I'm on board.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I'll probably mention, I think Collins didn't know. I don't know. He didn't really know how to build it correctly.
Yeah.
But Brent Key is
Say what you will about Jeff's time
okay.
and Jeff's resume. Jeff Collins was the best dressed ACC coach like 2 years running.
And he always had his Waffle House mug everywhere he went.
Yeah, he did.
It's a part of the fashion show.
I ain't mad at it. I ain't mad at it. Not in a little. Not even. In a little.
You are unmuted. I tried to mute you, but
Aha. Well, that's all right. Everybody on the stream can listen as well. This dude kind of seems awesome.
Yeah, he is.
He kind of seems awesome.
Yeah.
Like, dude, like as a football player, it seems like he's just intense. And as a dude, I was just listening to him talk to the media.
Yeah. He's one of the nicest, most respectful.
That's awesome.
Kids you'll meet.
Yeah. And his last name, Yon June?
Yeah.
Perfect. I got terrified. Like, I watched it pronounced 100 times, and yet every time I look at it, I'm like, oh, God, I hope I get this
no,
right.
that's why I was telling them in there. I was like, I would butcher it if I had to. So, luckily, I have Jordan Williams today, so my coverage is a little bit easier on the pronunciation side.
I'm gonna tell you, we are actually gonna have this camera on you for this interview. Is that all right?
That's fine.
Beautiful. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. Lonzo, look at that look, man. Isn't that a good look for ACC Media Days?
absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure Tim has it on right now and is watching while he's in the other room.
Yeah, I called him. I was like, you better be either working or be able
He
to
is,
listen.
but we put him on the politics station.
Oh, yeah.
Because otherwise it'd just be nothing but Braves talk all day.
That's true.
I'm kidding. I'm a Braves fan. I'd be all about it.
Oh, yeah.
30 seconds.
10-4.
The Fan.
Upstate. 97.7 FM Greenville. 97.1 FM Spartanburg.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
Always streaming wherever you are on the Odyssey app. Make the Fan Upstate a favorite.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The Rob Brown Show is live on the Fan Upstate, 97.7 FM Greenville, South Carolina, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, and, of course, around the world for free on the Odyssey app. Make sure you pick it up, put it on all your digital devices, and don't miss a minute of any of our local broadcasts. We are joined now by a writer for 24/7 Sports. He covers the Ramblin' Wreck of Georgia Tech, a team that I am, and I don't know that I've said this sentence in a long time, kind of optimistic about their future right now. Benjamin London joins us here on the show. What's up, big dog?
What's up? How are y'all?
Good, buddy. How are you?
Good.
I'm glad to hear it, man.
Yeah.
Let's start with this. We were kind of talking about it, and those on the stream got a little bit of a sneak preview. Jeff Collins, say what you want about his time as the head coach in Atlanta.
I'll tell you, the marketing side, he was fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
He rebranded Georgia Tech from Russell Athletics to Adidas very, very quickly. I know it happened in the last year with Paul Johnson, but a lot of people may have missed it because Paul Johnson's not the flashiest kind of guy. No offense to him. But Jeff Collins, like we talked about a little bit before we went on, he brought some swagger. Like, he was always, and you mentioned he's one of the best dressed coaches.
No. He was not one of the best dressed coaches. He was, the 2 years I was here with him, single-handedly the best dressed coach of any conference's media days anywhere.
Yeah, and he was strutting his Waffle House cup with him everywhere he went. So, and it wasn't a coffee. It was just a Diet Coke. I mean, that's all it was, but it was from Waffle House. It had to be from Waffle House. But other than that, I mean, he just struggled on the field. He was a really great recruiter. Obviously, he got guys like Jahmyr Gibbs, who's now in the NFL for the Detroit Lions. He got a lot of great recruits, but was unable to put it together on the field as a team. I think that's the nicest way to say it. But other than that, I think that with his departure after that UCF game, which honestly Tech should have won, it just kind of came crumbling down. I think his time was out and everybody knew it. And I think the way things ended was a good fit for Georgia Tech.
So it's kind of interesting because, look, Paul Johnson was a 3-time ACC Coach of the Year, 08-09, and then again in 2014. But let's be real, it had been a little while. Yeah. And I think that, at least from my perspective, when you taught Georgia Tech under Paul Johnson, it kind of had like the vibes of a team that was stuck in the 60s, right? We're going triple option. It's like, Coach, nobody doesn't run triple option because it's hard to do. They run it because athletes are so damn fast defensively that it does not work anymore. The best thing about it is that teams aren't going to spend 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks preparing for the one triple option offense. So you're hoping you just kind of catch a good team on a bad day, and it just kind of quit working. Jeff Collins was interesting in that, Ben. It didn't work out as far as let's go get a bunch of dubs as a football coach, but I do think he was the right coach in that moment because of, like what you said, trying to kind of change the image from a Georgia Tech team that felt like it was trying to stay stuck in the 70s and 80s in today's modern era of football, especially, and didn't know this at the time, but moving towards the portal and NIL and all that. Collins was a dude who made Georgia Tech seem contemporary and now hands it off to a guy in Brent Key, who seems like more of a football coach, who is a Georgia Tech guy, and it kind of felt like a real good – it didn't work out the way Collins wanted it to,
right?
But it felt like it worked out in a overall positive way for the Rec.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned a really good point. I think Jeff Collins wanted Georgia Tech to be successful. He wanted them to be relevant again. But unfortunately, he couldn't translate that onto the football field. He was doing it really well in NIL. He was doing it really well in marketing, the brand overall, social media. He was doing a really good job of that. I think the overall standpoint, what fans really pay attention to is what is produced on the field, and that wasn't really cutting it. But like you said, it came down to Brent Key and the guy at Tulane, and it looked like Brent Key won the job easily. I think the fans were very, very excited when he got the job. I think fans feel like this is a new Georgia Tech team, and it's going to be really exciting to see what Brent Key can do. Obviously, he's done very well in the recruiting side with the 2024 class, already in the top 25 on 247 Sports. So I think he's done very well in his short period of time that he's been there at Georgia Tech as the head coach.
By the way, Tim Holcomb is in our stream chat now saying, that's my bro. We talking with Ben London from 24/7 Sports here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. So talk to me a little bit about Brent Key. I know he's a Georgia Tech guy.
Yeah.
I know he is an offensive line minded coach, offensive line tight end kind of guy. Is that going to turn into, and obviously we saw him for the back 8 games of last year, but you're also talking about taking over Jeff's guys, kind of trying to keep some consistency with that system. Are we going to see a more contemporary but still ground-based offense out of Tech?
Well, I'll tell you this. Buster Faulkner is the new offensive coordinator at Georgia Tech, comes over from Georgia. Stetson Bennett, the quarterback from Georgia last year, gave a lot of his credit to Buster Faulkner and all of his success over at Georgia. And so what I think Buster Faulkner brings over to Georgia Tech, and I've talked to a lot of recruits that have told me this, is that he just brings so much difference to Georgia Tech's offense that they've never seen. In the spring game, for instance, I remember Aaron Philo, one of the quarterback commits for the 2024 class. He said one of the things I loved most is that they're not afraid to do anything on offense. And the very first thing he mentioned is in the spring game, very first play, you see the offense go 4 verts in the very first play of the spring game. And I think that was a big thing that surprised a lot of people. They're not afraid to take downfield opportunities. They're not afraid to run the football. They're not afraid to really do anything with Buster Faulkner's offense. And I think that's what excites a lot of Georgia Tech fans moving forward, is because, hey, now it's not a general offense like a triple option offense. You're not going to see Georgia Tech run heavy with the football. They're willing to spread it across the field and kind of just have a very unbalanced offense. You're not going to know when they're going to pass. You're not going to really know when they're going to run the football, but they're going to be really good at both. And I think that's going to be really exciting to see this fall.
One thing interesting, Georgia Tech was both the beneficiary and a victim of the portal this year, right? You bring in, I think, 8 players in the portal. Probably 5 or 6 are going to be starters on the flip side.
Right.
What was it, like 75% of your starting defensive backs from last year playing for Lane Kiffin now? I love him complaining about the portal when he's got Georgia Tech's defensive backfield now. But it's interesting because you got guys like Dabo who will use the portal. I think it's kind of the narrative that he does. He does,
right,
but he's just very selective. And then there's teams like Mike Norvell at Florida State. Now we got Ben Key at Georgia Tech, who are not just utilizing the portal, but are using it for positions that will be influential on their team this year. What do you think in terms of roster construction? How important was the portal this year for Brent Key?
Well, obviously, the defensive side of the football, they lost both starting linebackers from last year. What did they do? They went out and got the linebacker from Texas A&M, Andre White. He comes over from Texas A&M. He was one of their leading tacklers last year for the Aggies over there at Texas A&M, and then got a couple of guys. I know he got a guy from Maryland, a couple other guys just kind of filling the gaps. So I think what he's doing is he's seeing, hey, where are my biggest needs? And that's when he begins to use the transfer portal to help the immediate problem or the immediate issue. He's not going out and saying, oh, well, for instance, wide receiver, he went and got Dominic Blaylock from Georgia, who's been injured the past couple of years, but was a very, very good freshman when he came into Georgia. So the needs that he has, he's going out and filling them with the portal immediately. And that's one of the big things I like about Key. He's not going out and just getting a guy because he feels like, oh, this dude's really talented. Like, oh, okay, I'm just going to pull him in and see if it'll work. And then it doesn't work. So that's a lot of teams that I see do that, is they'll go into the portal and they'll grab a guy just to, add depth, or, just you feel like he can work, and then it never works out. And so, or it's NIL deal, like, hey, I'll give him X amount and he'll take it. And so that's not what Britt Key's doing, and I'm really excited to see him fill the holes that Georgia Tech had last year and make it a really exciting turnaround here in this fall.
Ben London covers the Georgia Tech Ramblin' Wreck for 24/7 Sports. Let's talk a little bit about kind of where Georgia Tech is right now, because there's good news, bad news. Good news is you're based out of Atlanta. You got a hotbed of recruiting around there. Bad news is Georgia's really good. Bama's really good. South Carolina's on the way up. Clemson's just around the corner. Tennessee is really good and getting better. So you've got, I think, Georgia Tech pointed in a real good forward direction.
Right.
But unfortunately, there's a lot of big sharks all around the circle there. What does Tech need to do to kind of start trying to pick away some of the talent? And listen, I'm not saying Georgia Tech's going to get 5 stars that are looking at Georgia to come there, but You could go grab the 3, maybe a couple of low-rated 4-stars that would be backups at Georgia. How does Georgia Tech brand themselves and get those kids to start coming to Atlanta?
Well, all you got to do is win football games. I mean,
no big deal, right?
Yeah, no big deal. But really, that's really the biggest issue for Georgia Tech right now. You win football games. I mean, you already have one of the most highly prestigious academic institutes in all of America. I think they rank in the top 5. I think maybe they're 1 or number 2 in the whole entire world. I think that presents itself to a lot of parents that say, hey, I know that my kid can get a really good education. Not only that, but 4 and 5 of Georgia Tech graduates are billionaires or millionaires at some point in their life after they graduate. So that's another big thing that parents look at, like, hey, like you're set after football. I had a really good friend that graduated and played football for Georgia Tech last year in Will Lay, and he told me one of the best things, he wanted to go to the NFL and able to make it, but he said at least Georgia Tech set me up for my future afterwards. And I think that's something that a lot of parents look at, and some athletes don't look at that. They just say, hey, I want to look at football. But then there's that realization football will end at some point. And how is life after football? And that's what Georgia Tech does, is set them up afterwards. So I think for them to be relevant again, just go out and win football games. And you can get those guys that are the 4 and the 5-star guys that can come in and commit to your school. Until you start doing that, it's going to be hard, because Georgia's going to be relevant for a while with Kirby Smart. Clemson's not going anywhere with Dabo. Nick Saban's not going anywhere. He signed a long-term deal with Alabama. A lot of these big schools have guys and really good coaches that can go out and recruit, and they're on the rise. But what does Georgia Tech need to do? They need to be winning games to be on the rise as well.
We're talking with Ben London, covers Georgia Tech for 24/7 Sports. One more, and then I got 1 or 2 more football questions before we let you go, Ben. We know the portal is massive in roster construction now, but we also know that, like it or not, kids are at least considering an IL when they pick schools. And Tech's interesting because you mentioned a minute ago that you've got a very wealthy booster base. You're in a major city in Atlanta, a cultural center in the South. In Atlanta, we're watching collectives pop up in South Carolina, the Gamecock Club and all that, Garnet and Black Trust. We're watching teams pop up, collectives pop up in Clemson. We got a tour of their facility the other day, and I mean, they're building podcast studios for their kids and photography studios so their kids can be building the brand. How's Georgia Tech handling that?
Yeah, there's a initiative called the Tech Way. One of their biggest things that they do, they get a lot of the football guys. They've done this twice now that I can guarantee it for. And they go out and rent, I'm not joking, they rent a suite over at Truist Park, and they get a lot of the football players to go over there and say, hey, it's like a meet and greet, but also you get to watch a Braves game while you're at it. So they've done 2 of those. They've done a lot of the autograph signees. They do a lot of stuff before football games for a lot of these fans who pay for this subscription to go out there and meet the fans. A lot of them, I think they even get to tour the facility sometimes, but it's a paid prescription or subscription. So a lot of these initiatives are kind of helping Georgia Tech pay some of these athletes to come to Georgia Tech and be like, hey, this is a great opportunity to make money. I know that there's a lot of people who are doing apparel now. Section103.com just announced the other day, which is a big Georgia Tech brand, announced the other day that they're going to make Georgia Tech player jerseys on T-shirts. So I think that's just another way for athletes to just kind of get their name out there, but also make some money on the side.
All right, last one, and then we'll cut you loose. We're talking to Ben London from 24/7 Sports. He covers Georgia Tech. Vegas sitting with Georgia Tech at an over-under win total of 4.5. I'm looking down the schedule. I'm looking at SC State. That should be a win.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Bowling Green. That should be a win. I am looking at, I want to say Syracuse should be a win. I want to say Boston College should be a win. Is there 1, 2, or 3 more wins out there for Tech this year?
I mean, you beat North Carolina in a comeback game last year. That, and not to be mean, but you're at home this year.
Yep.
That should be a favorable win. Louisville, there's a lot of hype surrounding Louisville this year, and a lot of people are saying, hey, this is a 10-win team. I don't see that personally.
And that one's in Atlanta
and
as
that
well.
one's in Atlanta in Mercedes-Benz Stadium to start the year. So if Georgia Tech can kind of start on a very good note, I think that momentum can ride out until you get to Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is a loss.
How interesting is that game now, by the way?
Exactly. That's intriguing now that half of Georgia Tech's former roster is on Ole Miss's roster now. So that's a real intriguing game. But you just look, Duke was a really tight game last year for Georgia Tech. Brent Key won that game and was very pumped. I think that was one of the key moments that Brent Key solidified his spot to be the head coach at Georgia Tech. You're not beating Georgia. I wish we could say that. You're not beating
For the record,
Clemson.
no one else can say that.
Yeah,
so.
and I don't think you're beating Clemson either.
Yep.
And you just there's so much talent, and Coach Riley has done a fantastic job with Cade Klubnik as well. So I would say 6 wins, probably
6 and 6.
Yeah, 6 and 6 is probably where I'm shooting for.
Hammer the over. You're telling me hammer the over.
Hammer the over.
I like it.
And I think Georgia Tech makes a bowl game for the very first time in a long time.
Ben London covers the Georgia Tech Ramblin' Wreck for 24/7 Sports. He, along with thousands of others here for ACC Media Days in Charlotte, North Carolina. Thanks for coming by, big dog.
Yeah,
Good to talk to you, man.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys and everything that y'all do for the upstate of South Carolina.
I appreciate that. When we get to that Clemson Georgia Tech week, we'll have you back on.
Oh, yeah. Sounds
Love
good.
it. All right, boys and girls, we got to take our top of the hour break. When we come back, we will take a quick look at Miami. We'll take a look at Syracuse and Louisville. Then we'll be joined by head coach of Georgia Tech, Brent Key, later on in the show. Lonzo, back in the network studio. I am Rob Brown, and you folks are listening to The Rob Brown Show right here on the Fan Upstate.
The Countdown.
we lost like half the people because
yeah. Well, turns out I'm an idiot. I was busy watching. There are 2 girls behind me who have been trying to get the perfect Instagram selfie for the past 11 minutes.
It's not, it takes talent, and not everyone has that kind of talent. It's just,
selfie after selfie after selfie after 11, in the same spot, not like moving around to different angles and stuff. The same spot, 11 minutes.
All right, we're coming back, and QC in the first break.
From the Free Odyssey app.
Man, check this out.
Your unofficial Rob Brown Lockdown.
Represents being real. Yeah.
Real, unfiltered sports talk. Manufactured locally for the Carolinas.
Lockdown.
This is the Rob Brown Show.
Get Rob.
Only on
The Fan Upstate.
The third, the final, the best, the money hour of the Rob Brown Show goes now, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Fan Upstate. Welcome back, folks. Ever so glad to have you here on the Rob Brown Show. I am, of course, obviously, Rob Brown, back at the network studio, the man in charge of literally everything that happens on the radio, anywhere, ever. The Alpha and the Omega of the Fan Upstate, the great one himself, Lonzo, is here as well. Zoe, did our conversation with Benjamin London of 24/7 Sports in any way, shape, or form inspire you to follow the Georgia Tech Rambling Wreck this season?
No, but he did a fine job. That was a really good interview. Absolutely. Just because something is spoken eloquently about doesn't mean that it's just
okay.
I'm still not sold. But neither was he entirely either. I mean, he said 6-6 in a bowl game.
Yep. I didn't say Georgia Tech's making the playoff. Let's all calm down just a little bit here.
Well, it is the beginning of the season. Anyone can make the playoff this year.
That's true. I have it on good authority that as of right this very second, Lonzo, everybody's undefeated.
They are.
Everybody.
Yep.
We'll tell you guys that during that last break, got the opportunity to say hello to friend of the show, Don Munson, the voice of the Clemson Tigers. He walked by, talked to him for just a second. He will be joining us on Thursday. We'll have Don live on the air Thursday to talk a little Clemson Tiger football with. I love our conversations with that guy, Lonzo. Don is such a fun conversation because he's kind of like in an interesting spot in that he's as behind the scenes with the program as you can get, right? Like him and Dabo are golf buddies. He's behind the scenes as it can get, A. B, you got to be a good football mind to talk football. You've got to be able to see the field, what's happening on it, diagnose, breakdown, et cetera. That's part of being a play-by-play guy. But C, he's a fan, right? Like he's a fan, and he's not just a fan the way that Rob Brown is a fan. That is to say, we get paid more when they do well, which is actually true for both of us. But he is a dyed-in-the-wool, true blue Clemson Tiger fan. So when you can bring all three aspects of that together, it makes for a phenomenal conversation because he knows what football looks like. He knows what Clemson football looks like behind the scenes, but he has got a passion and a drive for that school, that team, and that program that is unmatched amongst most of the people that we talk with. That's why I love events like this, because you get that mix of all three personalities, and every now and then you strike gold and you get all three in one dude like him.
Yeah, the cool part about him is he doesn't appear to have changed. I met him, I don't know, a decade or so ago when we first started carrying Burns games. Actually, I guess it was longer than that because we first started carrying them on WORD. And because of him, I got an extra show. And it's always good when you get an extra show because he was so busy he couldn't do the Burns coaches show. So I got to do my first high school football show, which got me to become a Burns fan. I got to go to state championships and stuff like that. So that's really cool. And I can attribute that to him being so busy and unavailable that I got an extra job out of it. So, anytime you get an extra job, well, in radio, when you get an extra on-air job, you're usually pretty happy about it.
I'm not saying that was pointed at me, was it?
Well, it was.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely was.
Real quick, I am asked. You know what? I'm gonna be selfish here for just a minute because I double checked and Keegan's correct. Can I?
Yeah.
Can I get some glass, Lonzo?
No,
Lonzo,
I'm not.
Let me get some glass.
No, I'm not doing it for that.
Let me get some glass. Lonzo.
I didn't even know he was still in the league.
Lonzo.
I'm not doing it for that.
Lonzo, give me some glass, man. Come on. Break the glass. Lonzo.
All right, I'll break the glass if you read the sponsor
I'll
this
tell you
time.
what, I accept. Deal. If you break the glass, I'll read the sponsor. Ladies and gentlemen, breaking news on the Rob Brown Show, brought to you by our friends at BetQL. Be a better, be smarter. Beat the books with BetQL. And do not forget to tune in tonight from 7 until 11 p.m. when BetMGM Tonight airs live right here on this fine Odyssey station and Odyssey stations around the country, hosted by, of course, Ryan Horvat and me, Rob Brown, going national tonight. And, of course, on Saturdays from noon to 4, it's Bet for the Cycle, the nation's premier baseball gambling show on BetQL.
That was the most exciting thing about everything, right there. And now you're going to talk about this, and like 3 people are happy. Sorry, Keegan, but come on.
Count me in the 3, big dog. Ladies and gentlemen, it's over. The NFC South, Lonzo, it's done. It's done. We don't even need to play the NFC South. I mean, the only thing we're doing now is finding out how good the final record is, because not only, ladies and gentlemen, do the New Orleans Saints have future first ballot Hall of Famer Derek Carr starting at quarterback, but it is official. According to the NFL, Jimmy Graham is a New Orleans Saint once again, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, that Jimmy Graham, the former New Orleans Saint tight end turned Seattle Seahawk tight end, is now once again back in that number, wearing black and gold, making his triumphant return to the upstate to the upstate of South Carolina. He will.
You're killing the mic, man. I get that you're excited about this.
I can't put it any further away. No, Jimmy Graham's a saint, man.
Yeah, I know. Your excitement is we all hear it. And did you know that Jimmy Graham was still in the NFL?
Yes.
Sure you did. Keegan, did you know? I mean, come on. I thought he was retired like 5 years ago. So
listen, okay.
He signed a 1-year contract. This is just one of those where he can retire a Saint. Are you sure he's playing?
No, he definitely will. And I'll tell you why. If you look at Derek Carr, and
the real reason why is he gets the chance to play with future Hall of Fame quarterback Derek Carr. Why wouldn't you want to?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Correct. Why would you not? Now, all right. Jokes aside, right? Jokes aside. When Jimmy Graham was a New Orleans Saint with Drew Brees, Jimmy Graham was, and I say this sincerely, Jimmy Graham was set up to be what Travis Kelce is today in his prime. I'm not saying he's going to do that now. All right. Jimmy Graham is past this prime. Jimmy Graham was set up to, and for a few minutes there, Jimmy Graham was performing like what Travis Kelce is today. And then
all right, stop with all the disrespect. I mean
that's not disrespect. That's a compliment. Travis Kelce's the best tight end in the National Football.
Jimmy Graham was a receiver, though, right?
That's what Jimmy Graham thought. And that's why Jimmy Graham left, because Jimmy Graham wanted to get paid the same amount of money that the Saints were paying guys like Marcus Colston, like they would pay Michael Thomas, etc. He wanted wide receiver money, and the Saints said, yo, hold up, wait a minute, you're a tight end, bro. Like, we understand you're big, you're tall, you're quick, but you are a tight end. We're going to pay you top-tier tight end money, but we're going to pay you top-tier tight end money. And Jimmy Graham said, nah, I'm good, and he bounced up to Seattle, and it went well for like 10 games, 11 games, right? For like 10, 11 games, he and Russ Wilson were on the same page. For like 10, 11 games, him and Russ Wilson genuinely looked like they were pointed in the right direction.
Hey, Rob, but now that that you guys are enlightened and already knew this, and we know what we know about Russell Wilson, maybe it wasn't his fault.
Well, I am going to say this. I really like Pete Carroll as a football coach. As a person, he's just comedy gold. He's a big conspiracy theory guy. It's funny. As a coach, I like Pete Carroll. But I think Pete Carroll, you know what Pete Carroll did? Pete Carroll put a long format Steve Spurrier, a long format Nick Saban, right? When guys like Spurrier and Saban go to the league, they bring that college mentality with them, right? They bring that I am the authority figure. I am the dictator. It is my way or the highway, and did not realize that you've kind of got to let players have one hand on the wheel alongside the coaching staff, right? And I think Pete Carroll, it took a little longer than it did for Saban and Spurrier, but I think Pete Carroll kind of long gamed going down that same direction. And I think it let Russell Wilson get away from him a little bit. I think it let Jimmy Graham get away. Now, again, relax. I'm not sitting here arguing that Jimmy Graham is going to show up and change the game. I am going to say this. Jimmy Graham is 36 years old. He is very clearly past his prime. It is infuriating that as a 38-year-old man, I'm sitting here talking about a 36-year-old guy as if it is time to mummify him and put him away, okay? But the dude's still got hops. He is still a legitimate red zone threat. He's not the deep ball threat that he was when he was back in New Orleans with Drew Brees 10 years ago. But he is a legitimate deep ball threat without a doubt. And I think this addition alongside Derek Carr, keep in mind what happened with Derek Carr and Darren Waller there in Vegas, right? The two of them 2 seasons ago had a magnificent year together. And then the Raiders became the Raiders again. They ended up not knowing how to utilize in his last year till he got traded. They did not recognize how to use Darren Waller. And I know that because the year before that, they used him very well, and he made his name. He made his announcement as an arrival for that team. Then they traded him away. Then they benched Derek Carr the year after the two of them had a really good season together. So all I'm saying here, great one, is Derek Carr knows how to use a red zone tight end possession wide receiver. And this is unfortunate for Carolina because while I absolutely think Carolina has got the potential to have a very good set of cornerbacks, safety's a question mark, and big-time playmaking safeties in the red zone is a fat question mark for Carolina. Jimmy Graham's 36. He's not going to threaten you over the middle for 60-yard receptions like he did when he was 26 in New Orleans. But if New Orleans gets down inside the 10, inside the 5, he is absolutely a throw it up to the goalpost and let him go get it kind of guy. And that's a throw Derek Carr makes very well. You can make all the jokes you want about it. This makes New Orleans a better red zone team. Juwan Johnson's a good tight end. Juwan Johnson is a down-the-field threat, not a yak guy. He's not a guy that's going to get you a ton of yards after contact, but he is a dude that's going to get you possession catches as a wide receiver. He's not a big red zone threat. Jimmy Graham, even at 36, is.
So we know that the Panthers are currently here in Spartanburg at training camp. Maybe they're taking a little bit of break right now. They're listening to the show. And the defensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers is smiling right now because they know wherever Jimmy's lined up, that's where we're rushing from. That's where we're rushing from.
I don't think you're going to see Jimmy Graham lined up very often in open field situations, right? I really don't. I think you're going to see Jimmy Graham predominantly lined up when the Saints are close, when the Saints are in striking distance. I don't think you're going to see him 1st and 10 from the 25 coming out. I think you're going to see him 1st and goal from the 7 going in. Juwan Johnson will be the guy that gets the majority of the snaps as an open field tight end. I think he's a bigger threat down the field. I think he's a bigger threat to beat close coverage in possession situations. Jimmy Graham is an NBA power forward that you throw it up. You say, Derek Carr, I want you to go hit the spot where the crossbar and the upright meet. I want you to hit that T-junction, just throw it right at that on a dart and let Jimmy Graham sky and go get it. And that's it. That's the only reason you bring this guy in. And again, and maybe this I will acknowledge that what I'm about to say is overwhelmingly optimistic. Jimmy Graham in New Orleans was on a trajectory to be what Travis Kelce has become to Patrick Mahomes when his head got big and he wanted that money. Jimmy Graham has a reputation to try to save. He wants, I would think, he is going to want to try to clean up his name a little bit before he ends up leaving the league either at the end of this year or the next. Again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you Jimmy Graham's going to come get you 12 or 13 touchdowns this year. he's going to get you 5 or 6.
So what other old guy can the Saints bring out of retirement that'll make you pop your jersey like you just did?
That's not a jersey pop. That's a legitimate and, by the way, very good analysis of what Jimmy Graham is.
Uh-huh.
It is.
Uh-huh.
Book it. Watch it. Watch it.
We'll see. We'll have plenty of time to cover how much he's actually on the field.
Mm-hmm. Again, I'm not arguing Jimmy Graham's going to the Pro Bowl, guys. He's not. I'm not arguing Jimmy Graham is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer like Derek Carr. All right? He's not. He ain't none of those things. He's just a big power forward that you throw it up at the goal line and you let him go get it. That's all. That's a 5-touchdown guy. I'll go over under. Let's set over under at 4.5 touchdowns for Jimmy Graham, Lonzo, and I'm taking the over just barely.
So I'm definitely going under, and I want what are we going to do over under that he makes it through the entire season? Wait, that he makes it out of training camp.
You just trying to hurt my feelings, ain't you?
You're just
trying to hurt my feelings.
In his prime, he was excellent. He was never a receiver. He was a really good tight end for sure. In his prime, he was really good, but he ain't in his prime.
No, I just said.
No. Yeah,
I'm
I know.
not saying he's in his prime.
He's been in the witness protection program. That's where he's been.
Hey, I'm just saying. My name's Gimme Jam. And I'm here to play football. I'm excited, dude. I'm excited. Listen, again, I'm not arguing that Jimmy Graham's going to be an all-pro. I'm not arguing Jimmy Graham is going to come in and shock the system. I'm just saying that now first ballot Hall of Fame lock Derek Carr has a red zone receiver. That's all.
You know, there are people hearing you say that live, echoing through the halls of that fine hotel and rolling their eyes right now.
First ballot Hall of Famer Derek Carr. Oh, no, one guy did. One guy did look. I'm excited, man. We'll find out. We'll see how it goes. We will, by the way, while we have you and while we're talking about it, let us remind you that coming up this Saturday from 9 till 11 a.m., we will be live on the campus at Wofford from Carolina Panther training camp. We will go eyes on the prize, BY and the boys for the first time up close and personal. We will be broadcasting live from 9 to 11 a.m. on this Saturday, live from Wofford, live from Carolina Panther training camp. And not going to lie, pretty jazzed about that. I'm intrigued to see what BY looks like. By the way, just for the record, we were doing last night on BetMGM tonight, we were doing over-under win totals for the NFC South. We were making our official picks, predictions, projections, and prognostications for the NFC South last night. And my thought was New Orleans is an 11-win team. Carolina's a 9-win team. Atlanta's an 8-win team. Tampa Bay's a 5-win team this year, Lonzo. Which ones did I get right and wrong?
I'm not so sure about New Orleans winning 11.
Okay.
So,
easiest schedule in the NFL this year.
Yeah. And now they got Jimmy Graham, so look out.
They got Jimmy Graham. Look out. Thank you for saying it, Lonzo. I'm glad you came around. Took a little while, but we got you there. They got Tennessee out of the gate. Now, that was interesting because you probably won't have Alvin Kamara for that one, right? You got Tennessee out of the gate. Week 2, you got a Monday nighter on the road at Carolina. There's going to be a lot on the line in that game. Is he caught up to speed at that point? Week 3, you're at Lambeau at Green Bay. Jordan Love has probably 9 games to prove he's the guy. That's going to be early in the season. I don't know about that one. You ought to have a win in week 4 taking on Tampa. I'd like to think the Saints beat the Patriots in week 5, beat the Texans in week 6. I'll give you the L against Jacksonville in week 7 to make it interesting. Week 8, they should beat the Colts with a rookie quarterback. Let's say 50-50 against Chicago. Let's say they take the L for Minnesota. I think they sweep Atlanta. Let's say they L to Detroit. Let's say they split 1-1 with Carolina. The Giants in week 15 is 100% up to whether Saquon Barkley is healthy or not. Week 16, you're at the Rams. You should win that. Week 17, you should sweep Tampa. Week 18, you sweep Atlanta. That's 9. That's what I'm going with. Super. All right, let's.
That was my answer.
Yeah, fair enough. I figured it was. Ladies and gentlemen, we have coming up over the next couple of days a lot going on. We're going to take a break here in just a minute, not right this very second, but when we come back, the head coach of the Ramblin' Wreck of Georgia Tech, Brent Key, is going to join us here on the Rob Brown Show. We'll have about 8 minutes with Brent Key to talk a little bit about the direction that the Yellow Jackets are headed right now. Then at 11:44, Sylvain Yonjun will join us here on the show, a Belgian defensive end, a 3-star recruit who is turning in to a fan favorite in the ATL. On tomorrow's show, we're going to record interviews with Marlo Wax, Dino Babers, and Matt Lee this afternoon. They are from Syracuse, and Miami, respectively. We'll have those interviews for you tomorrow. Tomorrow, Florida State, Pitt, Virginia, and Virginia Tech all on the docket. We'll have Kalen DeLoach live during the show, an All-American FSU linebacker. After the show is over, we will record interviews with Tony Muskett and Chico Bennett from Virginia, Jacob Monk from Duke, MJ Devonshire from Pitt, and Josh Fuga from Virginia Tech. We'll run those interviews for you on Thursday. Then on Thursday, it is Boston College, North Carolina, NC State, Wake Forest, and Clemson. We will have for you live that day Emmett Moorhead from Boston College. After the show is over, we will interview Aiden White of NC State, John at Copenhagen from North Carolina, Chase Jones of Wake Forest, Dabo Sweeney, Cade Klubnik, and Will Putnam from Clemson. We'll talk with all of them on Thursday, and we will run those interviews back for you on Friday. But we are going to step away for a break. And when we come back in just a couple of minutes from now, Brent Key, the head coach of the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, will join us live on the radio broadcast to talk a little Ramblin' Wreck football. That is coming up next on the Rob Brown Show. That is next on the Fan Upstate.
QC.
Yes, sir. We're ready when he is. We got Coach up next. Beautiful. Thank you, sir.
You are unmuted, by the way.
That's all right. The folks behind the scenes are getting to see how radio works. It's fascinating.
Well, no, because the video's not up. I mean, there we go. Now they can do it. Hey, switch us.
Oh yeah, we switched. Wow. There we go. Now we're back. Come on, Coach.
All right, you got 40 seconds.
All right, he is.
I could throw another 30 in if need be.
Yeah, throw one more 30, and if he's not over here by that, then we'll just wing it. They're standing it up now, so he should. Yeah, throw one more 30. We should be good. No, do not take selfies, guys. You're not fans. Stop it. Is that pretentious of me?
No. And by the way, JD, we did see that about Bronny. We broke that a little bit earlier. All right, I can't keep adding.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Just run it when he comes over.
Because someone will come down the hall, and
Yeah, no. You can just run it. I'll get him when he gets here.
A Rob Brown Show.
Only on the Fan.
The Fan.
Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate, ladies and gentlemen. Rob Alonso with you on a Tuesday afternoon, live from Charlotte, North Carolina, home of the 2023 Atlantic Coast Conference Media Days. We are awaiting the arrival of the head coach of the Ramblin' Wreck of Georgia Tech, Brent Key, who will be joining us here in just mere moments from right now. They are doing the media switcheroo right now. We've got Georgia Tech players and coaches surrounding us and going from table to table. So we'll have head coach Brent Key with us here in just moments from right now. Real interesting story behind Brent Key. Grew up in Alabama. He was a 4-year starter as an offensive guard at Georgia Tech. He's an alum. He's been here. He's done that. He is a guy who has been with the Wreck before. So really, really interesting to get his story, and we will do that here in just a second. As a matter of fact, we got him pulling up a headset and a mic right now. We'll get him wired up, and joining us live here on the radio broadcast is the head coach of the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, the Ramblin' Wreck, Coach Brent Key. How are you doing, Coach?
Doing good. How's it going?
Great, man. Great. Thanks for taking a couple of minutes. How's Media Day treating you so far, bud?
Good.
I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, cooled off a little bit. A little hot early on, wearing the suit around.
You played ball in Georgia Tech. You're used to that, right?
Yeah. I mean, O-lineman.
That's what y'all do.
We're going to sweat regardless.
You brag about it, right?
Yeah.
I love it, man. Let's start there. You played 4 years, 4 years starter at Georgia Tech. At one point, I mean, you've kind of bounced. You were at UCF, you've been in Alabama, and now here you are coaching at the school you played for. What's that kind of like for you?
I hadn't really had time to sit back and think about it. Yeah, people ask, well, you had that aha moment, and how does it feel? I mean, it's a job, and it's a job that I have to do. That I take a lot of pride in. There's a lot of pressure I put on myself to make sure that things are right, and whether it's friends, whether it's people I played with, there's a lot of people that have worn the white and gold, and they want a winning program, and they want a program that's going to compete and be disciplined and play the game the right way, and to know that they've entrusted me to sit there and be the voice and the head of the program, and all those guys that played there, they sit there with me.
Yeah,
and they're in my thoughts as I make those decisions.
It's kind of interesting because this is a program that's got a lot of history and a lot of tradition. And folks, constantly, even where we are in South Carolina, bringing up Alabama and Georgia and all this, but like Tech goes back decades and decades of a proud football tradition. And I truly feel like this program is pointed in a new direction, in a positive direction. Do you guys within the program kind of feel that momentum?
Yeah, we do. I mean, hopefully everyone's got their heads down and working every day. That you don't look at the end goals and the insights. I mean, yeah, we don't. You'd love to sit there and say our number one goal is to be champions. Well, yeah, I mean that's easy to say, but are we going to put the work in? Are we going to put our heads down? There's so much work to be done that if you get any of the distractions that allow you to lose focus on what you have to get done, it's not going to lead to a good outcome. So, we have a great history, very proud history, but to kids nowadays and kids that we recruit, I mean, history's yesterday. Things where we think 20 years ago, I mean, that's so far in the past for them. So you got to become relevant now, and that's where we're at, and that's the goal that we're working towards is relevance now. And when you talk to recruits and you're recruiting guys throughout the South, because we're going to recruit the state of Georgia, and we're getting into the state of South Carolina that has had a lot of success for us in the past. But again, that's the past. So now to start that up again and become relevant now is what's important.
We are talking to Brent Key, head coach of the Georgia Tech Yellow Jacket football program. And we were talking to one of the guys who covers y'all for 24/7 earlier. And we were talking about the Paul Johnson days, a couple of years under Jeff Collins. And I said, from my perspective, Georgia Tech had almost the feel like we had this pride history and we're kind of staying with that feel. And it really does feel like this is a program that's kind of emerging into the contemporary, the modern era of college football. As a head coach, how do you kind of navigate the direction of this program, especially when you've got things like NIL and the portal that are becoming such a big part of college football? How do you kind of help Georgia Tech turn the corner into the modern era of college football?
Well, the biggest thing is who you surround yourself with. The staff you're able to put together, people you trust to do their jobs, that you don't have to micromanage every part of it. Your prints are on every part of the program, but there's so many things to do. You can't get bogged down in trying to do all of them. You have to surround yourself with people that you trust, and people you trust to run the offense and the defense and to run the kicking game, and guys in the weight room that you trust that you can take a few weeks to give the staff some vacation, and the guys in the weight room are going to get the job done, and that everyone's on the same page and everyone's speaking the same language. So that's what gives you the comfort as a coach, that you will be able to make things happen. Is the people you put around, in my opinion, is the people you put around you.
Brent Key, head coach of the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, joining us here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Talk to me, Coach, a little bit about how you're navigating the portal, because I think, there are some teams that are trying their best to stay away from it. There are other teams that are embracing it in terms of, hey, we'll just take whoever's in there that's available. Kind of felt like you guys were really looking not just for fits in terms of positions of need to stock up, but guys that really kind of fit the mold of what a Georgia Tech player looks like. How are you kind of handling moving guys in and out of the portal?
Yeah, I mean, the goal is to improve your roster. That's what recruiting is about, is improving your roster. Well, it's no different than the National Football League. I mean, it's not just the draft, there's free agency. Well, how are you going to use free agency in that league? And, same thing in the portal. So you look at it and say, okay, well, you can major in the draft and then use free agency as a way to supplement your roster. Well, you can major in the high school recruiting and use the portal to supplement your roster. There's people that have used free agency to go out and get 3 players in the NFL, win a championship, and the team erodes then afterwards. There's been examples of that in the last 5 years. Well, same thing can happen in college football, and that's the way I look at it. And the model I kind of look towards is the way that free agency is used in the NFL. And we want to build a foundation to build a team that has success for a long time. So being able to supplement needs in the portal, I think, is an important part of our process and the way we're doing things.
Last one, and then we'll let you go, Coach. I mean, I think it's easy when you ask coaches what your goals, say all conference championship, division championship, national championship, et cetera. But if I had to ask you as a culture, what's the goals for Georgia Tech in terms of building the football culture for you for the next maybe 2-3 years?
Yeah, toughness, discipline, being accountable, having our guys play the game the right way. Small things matter. Offensive change, defensive change, kicking game changes, those things all change, schemes change. But at the end of the day, possessing the football, being disciplined, not having penalties, controlling the line of scrimmage, being efficient in throwing. I mean, those things hadn't changed. Those hadn't changed in 100 years. So they're not changing now. Those are the core fundamentals that we're going to instill in our program. And we love to say that's what I want to happen here, but that's what we're going to make happen. And there's no exceptions. There's no alternative.
Brent Key is the head coach of the Georgia Tech Yellow Jacket football program. Coach, appreciate you taking a few minutes. Good luck to you guys this year. Looking forward to watching you play.
Appreciate it. Go Jackets.
There you go. That is Brent Key. Thank you for your time, Coach. And we are going to take a very quick break because when we come back here in just a minute from now, we've got another interview lined up. Thank you very much, Coach. Appreciate you. We will be talking next with Sylvain Yonjun. He is a defensive end for the Jackets, and a very interesting story. A young man from Belgium come over to play football here in the States. We'll find out. We'll let him know that decision and what he's looking for as he prepares to take the next step to the league, and we will have that conversation next. I am Rob Brown. Lonzo's back on the ones and twos, and you're listening to The Rob Brown Show. You're listening to the Fan Upstate.
The countdown to the college football season has begun. This is live coverage from the ACC kickoff in Uptown Charlotte. Powered by your local Eagles market on the Fan Upstate.
Yeah, right.
I'm Chuck Sanders. Here's the Sports Flash on the Fan Upstate. Panthers training camp set to get into full swing at Wofford College in Spartanburg. Rookies reported a couple of days ago. Lead atop the division, 11.5 games.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Thanks again to Coach Brent Key of the Ramblin' Wreck of Georgia Tech.
Jordan Westberg homered for the American League East leading Orioles, who have won 13 of 16 and have a 2.5 game advantage over Tampa
Zoe's
Bay.
opinion when we come back.
Fan Upstate is your home for
was that man an offensive lineman or is that man an offensive lineman?
You know what I mean? App, search the Fan Upstate and listen anywhere on your phone. I'm Chuck Sanders with the Sports Flash on the Fan Upstate.
That's an offensive lineman interview, right? It's just gruff, to the point.
I'm Taylor Bishotti with NFL Network now on the Westwood One Radio Network. NFL Network insider Tom Pelissero reports that Josh Jacobs was seen boarding a plane out of Las Vegas Monday morning and will not report to training camp. The Raiders running back has told people close to him that he doesn't plan to return to the team anytime soon. The Raiders have signed cornerback Marcus Peters. NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport reports it's a one-year deal. Tom Pelissero also reports new Lions defensive back C.J. Gardner-Johnson was carted off the field at practice after suffering a non-contact knee injury. More news, Tom also reporting Bills running back Nyheim Hines will miss the entire 2023 season after injuring his knee in a jet ski accident. And Ian and Tom report a couple of rookie quarterbacks agreeing to terms on their deals, both the Texans and C.J. Stroud, as well as the Colts and Anthony Richardson. This has been NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network.
I am back, and you are unmuted. I just want you to know
that. Was that not Lonzo? I said this while you were gone.
Banners and posters expertly
was that not the most offensive
marketing
line
services.
head coach
Save on the
you've
latest
ever had a conversation
total
with?
Support plans.
I felt completely comfortable. If I were there, we would have been bros. Yeah.
That was the interview of an offensive line coach turned head coach. Just
in-store purchase of $50
to
or
the
more.
point.
Get everything for the
Let's
office
say what
and
we
the
got to
classroom
say
for
and move the
less.
hell on. I loved it. It was great.
N729. In-store only. Exclusions apply.
Prescriptions
Like, I think a lot of coaches come to these events
appropriate restrictions apply. See website for details
and
on important safety information.
they kind of try to like
on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic
some guys
form
just
of
have
Viagra
personality.
that works just the same?
Guys like Dabo have
95%
personality.
cheaper?
And then
Just
there's
go to
other coaches that like try to force
forhims.com/joy.
a personality
Through
when
Hims,
it's
you'll
not
get a free
really
medical
there.
consultation,
Not him.
street shipping if prescribed,
like,
and the process
we're
is
gonna be tough. We're gonna
100%
punch you in the
online.
throat.
To
We're
start
gonna
your
win a game.
free
We're gonna go
online
home.
visit, go to
Well, you could also, the way he sat in his chair, just sit back, relax. Like, yeah,
Oh,
you
he
know.
showed up. He just put that leg up, threw that headset on, didn't even think about it. He was ready. I loved it. Loved it.
Maybe it was just you. You made him feel so comfortable
We can all enjoy
that, you know.
I have been told,
even the last in line.
and I'm gonna. I don't know if this is me
Seems
having an
always
ego
me.
or not.
But go ahead.
I've been told
Have
that
that
I am
imaginary
quote
argument
disarming
about
end quote when it comes to
Take your
interviews.
time. With our new
Like it's hard to
high-efficiency
feel on
natty
edge
and
with me
tankless
because my
water
interviews are
heater.
so
I'll never
goofy
take a
most of the
cold
time.
shower again. Visit Tankless Made Simple.
The only and before Steven shows up in the thread,
Meet Joe A.
I'm not asking the hot dog question to anybody that's
everyday
not
Joes
Clemson or
perfecting their
South
banking
Carolina
with
guys.
Chase. Joe A is locking his lost.
Yeah, because we already know what it's going to be everywhere else.
Right, everywhere else it's just a hot dog.
Right.
That's not the
And Joe
question.
sees Chase Banker is helping him budget to go back to school. Tools that help protect. Support for what's next. One bank that puts you in control. Visit chase.com/checking. Chase. Make more of what's yours.
Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Messaging and data rates may apply.
Hopefully, the answer to that question to some of the Clemson guys is, do you know who I am? They, my hot dog always comes loaded.
And get an additional
You know.
10% off in-store clearance appliances. Plus, take up to 50% off select patio furniture and accessories. And save on select grills and outdoor.
All right, just a reminder that we have to squeeze things in this break. So, I mean, a normal break, but there's a couple of things I can get rid of if he shows up late.
Yeah, no. So he is scheduled to be joining us.
Discover credit cards
in
automatically double all the cash back you earn
less
at the
than
end of your
2
first
minutes.
year. Wait, hold up. Question for the audio engineer. Is this for real?
Him, but
All right, because we've got like 30 seconds.
We'll just come from break like normal.
This afternoon,
Okay.
mostly sunny and pleasant, high of 92.
So his interview is scheduled to be over at 52. We should be able to wrap up with him, say goodbye, and then get out.
Express Employment Professionals can help you take the next step.
Apologies to everyone for hearing that entire break. You know, what can I do?
What can I do?
Upstate.
I had to go to the bathroom. I'm sorry.
Always live on the Free Odyssey app. CBS Sports Radio. Listen on the Odyssey app. Search the Fan Upstate.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is the final segment, a long final segment, but the final segment nonetheless of the Rob Brown Show right here on the Fan Upstate. Rob Alonso with you on a Tuesday afternoon live from Charlotte, North Carolina. That is the spot from which the 2023 ACC Media Days emanate. Ever so glad to have you guys along for the ride with us. Thanks for taking just a few minutes out of your ever so busy day.
It's the last segment, so you just went full on North Carolina there almost. You didn't put your head back, but it was close.
I want to do it. I want to do it so bad. I really do. The problem is the folks that are in charge of booking us interviews and whatnot are like standing right around me, and like the last thing I want to do is tick them off because they're the ones who bring me, football players and coaches to talk to, and I don't, you don't want to blow that. You know what I mean? Like, you don't
way to be business smart.
Correct. I am savvy, if nothing else. We are scheduled to be joined here any minute by Sylvain Younjun. He is a defensive end / outside linebacker for Georgia Tech. He'll be talking some football with us here in just seconds from right now. Very interesting story for this young man. Hails from Belgium. And I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about how he ended up in the States playing college football, how he ended up at Georgia Tech. In fact, he is joining us now, throwing on the headsets to talk a little Yellow Jacket football. He plays defensive end, outside linebacker, and basically wherever else Coach Key tells him to play. We have got Sylvain Younjun joining us here on the show. How you doing, big fella?
Great, and you?
I'm doing real, man. Welcome. How's ACC Media Day treating you so far?
Amazing, man. Amazing. I love it. It's amazing. It's a great experience, something I could never dream about, man. I mean, it's great to be here, see all those people, see how it works behind the scene. But yeah, it's a great experience.
What's the weirdest question you've got so far? There's got to be one.
I mean, I don't know if it's weird. They asked me if I had a Beyonce song, but yeah, my favorite Beyonce song. But
so what is it?
I don't have a favorite Beyonce song. I don't
all
know
of them, right?
I guess, yeah.
So let me ask you this question. From Belgium,
yes,
ended up here in the States playing football. How did that happen? How did you end up? Because obviously it's not new and unique that we're having more and more European players come play American football.
Yeah.
But how did that path work out for you?
So played soccer my whole life until I was 16, 17. Tried to get into a new soccer team. Didn't work out. Ended up not having a spot for a little bit. But my neighborhood friend was like, well, let's come play American football with me. And I was a little surprised, like, American football here in Belgium? Like, I didn't know we played that. Ended up going to a practice or two, ended up keeping going, and then I started playing American football at that age, played for 3 years, 3 years with like the youth and then the older people. And then I ended up playing with the national team of Belgium. And that's where everything started. Like the one guy was at that game. We played against Spain, and he came up to me and was like, "Do you know Brandon Collier, PPI?" And I was like, "No, not really." So we looked him up, found out he was originally from here in America, came to Germany to start camps for kids that he thought would like. He was just testing them to see if they had the potential to be D1 players. So we looked him up, went to one of his camp in Germany, went to another one, and up to a third one. And after the third camp, he was like, "Yeah, I want you to come with me to America during the summer, and we're gonna go over all the camps. And yeah, I want you to come with me." So that's where everything went fast. Like that year, we left during the summer period with like 16 other kids. Came like travel all together from hotel to camp to another hotel during the summer. Came back home with like 12 different D1 full scholarships. And yeah, my parents and me were a little surprised. We didn't really expect anything to come out of it. So yeah, that from there, like I said, it went fast. So got my scholarship offers, stayed in contact with Arizona, the Wildcats first. They were the first team that really contacted me. Took my official visit to them, came back home, committed to them. And then my mom was like, "Well, you still got 4 official visits. So what are we going to do with them?" And I was like, "Well, I committed." She was like, "Well, it's a free ride. Why not?" So took a visit to Temple, stayed in contact with Coach Collins, came back home, found out that the coaching staff was moving from Temple to Georgia Tech. And then we took another visit to Georgia Tech this time, came back home, and then they were like, "Well, did you not see, like, don't you think you should do here something here, like, by thinking about Georgia Tech?" I was so stubborn at that time. I was so focused I committed to them first, so I'm gonna stay with them. And yeah, that's where my parents talked to me. Brandon talked to me and was like, "Man, this is not about just now. This is not you committed to them. It's about your future too. You got to see what's best for you." And they gave me some different options, like not options, but like scenarios. Imagine you get hurt, where you're gonna get the best education or what you're gonna get the most out. And that's where I was like, well, Georgia Tech has a better education than Arizona. I mean, so yeah, I flipped like a week before signing, and yeah, best decision of my life. I graduated now. This is my 5th year now. So yeah, amazing story, I think.
So you were there at a point in time where we're seeing more head coaches move on, and now the transfer portal means if you don't want to stay, what is it about Coach Key that made you decide to stick around and play for Tech longer?
Coaching staff. I mean, I knew Coach Key from freshman year. I played against the O-line he was coaching, so I knew how he was. I saw him during practice. I saw how he was with the other guys, and he was always somebody that was like high in my esteem. Like, he was somebody that I respect a lot because he's done a lot. I mean, it's somebody that's successful in his life, and hearing him being the interim coach, like interim head coach, didn't really shock me. I mean, I was actually excited to hear about it. I mean, and now having him as a head coach is something that's only being better. I mean, I personally think that it's got me better too, having somebody like him up there. It's making me more confident in what I can do. He really is helping like other guys on the team, or like just helping you as a kid becoming a man, or a man like being a man after school too. So yeah, I like it. I mean,
I love it. So we were talking earlier that Georgia Tech's a team that's got a very proud history. I'm sure you've learned all about it during your time there, but it kind of feels like Tech is really starting to join the modern era of college football, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's starting to feel young and cool and caught up to date. You're a big part of that. Talk to me about what kind of changes have you seen the last couple of years at Tech as a player?
Okay, so we went my freshman year. It was a lot of chaos, I think. My freshman year, when I got here, it was a lot of new stuff. I didn't know what to expect. I really got into the team. I'm very sociable, so like it wasn't hard for me to make friends on the team.
I can tell. I love it.
I saw the team grow up from my freshman year through now my senior year. And like you said, there's a lot of new, like modern, like fresh, like new kids, I think. young kids that are there that are working hard too. I think we got a lot of energy. It can be offense or defense, and we have those fresh, like those new kids coming in with fresh blood that don't know really what college is, and then you have like people like me that've been in college, and like you can tell them like you got to be serious about this because this is not high school anymore. Like I didn't experience high school, but from what I heard from other people, like the football in high school and football in college is not the same. And if you got guys that are respected and work hard, and they work hard because they do it and they're just doing it, those kids that are coming in will have that same mentality, and that's a great thing for Georgia Tech future because I see now the freshmen that are coming as DN. I'm gonna make sure they work, and I'm gonna make sure they work as much or even more than I did when I was a freshman, and I hope he keeps that for the next freshmen. So it's just building a legacy from where we're at right now, and it's working well right now, I think. So, yeah.
All right, we got one more question. I got 20 seconds.
Okay.
You mentioned, I think we're seeing soccer become much more popular in America.
Yeah.
Is American football doing the same in Europe right now?
I think it is, yeah. I've heard a bunch of guys. Actually, last year, I think, some guy was done here in America and left to go. He left to play actual American football in Europe. And he was in college here. So, like, it's getting bigger. It's not as big as here, but it's growing. I think it's growing. It's just something great for the kids, especially down there in America, in Europe, because the opportunity, you can't get it. If you get seen down there, you can make it here for sure. So, yeah.
Man, you got a new fan in me. I cannot wait to watch you play. Good luck this year, young man.
Appreciate it.
You,
Thank
buddy.
you, sir.
That is Sylvain Ujon. He is a defensive end / outside linebacker for Georgia Tech. And, Lonzo, I got to tell you, when this football thing's done, when he gets to the league and he calls it, that man's got a future in professional wrestling, doesn't he?
Oh, there's no doubt.
Oh, yeah. The charisma oozing. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for the show. I will remind you that after the show's over today, we'll be interviewing Marlo Wax from Syracuse, Dino Babers, head coach for the Orange, and Matt Lee from Miami. We'll have those interviews for you on tomorrow's show, as well as a full 3 hours of greatness. For Lonzo, I'm Rob. Thanks for listening. Don't drink and drive. I'll punch you in the face. See you back here tomorrow to do it all over again on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Later. Yeah!
You're listening to live coverage from the ACC kickoff
All right.
in Charlotte.
Your
local
You
English
did.
market.
You did because you're done for the day. Well, kind of. You're going to leave, what, for an hour? So,
Yeah, we're back here at 108 to interview.
Medical bills or other
yeah, you don't care
unsecured
about that.
debt.
I'll have
You may
interviews
not
for
be
you tomorrow.
required to pay it all back.
yeah, well,
Special
text me
programs
later
and
or call me and let me know how we're going to do all that.
reduce the
And
amount
I
you
also
will
have
owe.
a question
This is not bankruptcy
that was
or
asked from
debt
somebody else that I need to
consolidation
talk to you about.
These
Okay.
programs, which the credit card companies
well,
like
I'll
to
tell
keep
you what.
secret,
Let me
exist
just
to
get all
aid
this
American
broken down and
consumers
whatnot, and I'll
struggling
give you
with
a buzz.
overwhelming
Okay,
credit
cool.
card debt
All right,
by
talk to you in a
offering
few.
tremendous
Bye, Stream.
savings and
See
real
you,
debt
Stream.
relief. Accredited debt relief is a